Yes, at 7:30.
Oh.
Yeah. So I told them that we'd just take them out of order when they got here. I told them it was on at 7 if they could get here at 7, but they had.
Yeah, this was bad. Did they want to be on tonight?
They initiated it, yeah.
I think they didn't think. I don't think they remembered it was primary night, and both of them are on the ballot.
I told them.
That is kind of weird.
Okay, so then why don't we do that? And so what I would like to do then is, since we have people in the, are you, has anybody, we're going to take the bicentennial
Do the
committee.
bicentennial.
But, yeah, but has anybody given times to anybody? Because I would figure, say people are here, we can listen to the update on Pipes Dave, but unless you said it, we're not going to do until later.
I think there's people coming later.
Yeah.
I told people that they'd be coming between 4 and 18 o'clock. That's what it would be.
Okay. Okay, come on up, guys.
You got a really long report, is that what you're
No.
No.
He's got plenty of other stuff.
No, we have plenty of other stuff, but when I see people in the building, we just, okay, welcome.
You did the announcement first?
Yep.
You said,
Yeah, oh no, I didn't do it in. Okay, well,
Did you call the order?
I'm doing it right now. I'm gonna open my meeting, our meeting tonight, for the Board of Selectmen. It's 7:04. A few announcements. This meeting is being broadcast on local cable TV and recorded for rebroadcast on local cable channels and on the internet. If you are watching us at home right now, I would like to remind you today is state primary day, and the polls are still open for 55 minutes. So come on down, please vote if you haven't. We're going to take a few things out of order.
just in terms of announcements,
Okay.
if I may.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to announce that we're having a Gary Bill retirement celebration on September the 13th. And so, having served over 19 years as our DPW director, Gary announced his intention to retire a couple of weeks ago. So there'll be a celebration on September 13th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Old Town Hall, 491 Main Street. And we like to extend an invitation to the entire town to join us in wishing Gary and his family many years of happiness and health in retirement.
Mm-hmm. There will be a raffle, a $5 raffle, and whoever wins that Gary Bill will still plow your driveway and street this winter. And all proceeds go to a local charity. Okay, let's start the Bicentennial Committee.
Well, we are unveiling, this is not the first unveiling, but this is our logo that we've been working on for, it's designed by a local artist. Actually, 2 local artists worked on it.
I like it.
Nice.
So it's the, obviously it's the Rocks Village Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And we like it too. We
Very nice.
ended up being very close with it. So this is kind of its maiden voyage. It is on our page on our website. I have to text you, Mary, because I wanted to put it down at the bottom so that we could keep the pictures up there, but it didn't let me. The webpage didn't let me. Okay, so we have firmed up the dates. The first part of the report shows you the dates that we firmed up for the bicentennial committee's events, the ones that we're actually sponsoring. There will be other events besides these, but these are the ones that we're sponsoring. So in February, at the actual birthday, we will have the Black Tie Gala and the town birthday party, which is going to be a big extravaganza at the junior high school, with all kinds of hoopla and fun for children of all ages.
Are,
cream cakes, mimes,
are these events,
dishes.
are these dates firm dates,
Firm,
tentative
firm,
dates?
firm.
They're firm,
I
okay.
mean, you know,
No,
firm,
they're firm, Casey, they're firm.
You need to press this button to have that red light turn green,
Good eye.
oh,
and then speak
Closer.
Yeah, you need to bring that closer.
very close to your,
Casey, bring it even closer.
Like this,
even closer.
like this.
Okay. that
Thank
better?
you. Yep. And that's a little gooseneck. You can move it down.
Okay, so the
So
dates.
these dates are set, and we have reserved spaces and things like that for these dates. And,
I can talk about any one of these dates and tell you what the arrangements are. They're
Well,
made in
they're firm. That was your question.
yeah,
Yes.
they're
So they're
firm.
firm. Okay,
They're
why don't you go on?
Okay. In addition to these with the firm dates, we have two other activities that we're definitely planning to do, but we don't have firm dates. The West Newbury Day at Fenway Park, assuming that Friday's trip to Fenway Park
Works
goes
well. Mhm.
We are planning to have a bigger one in 2019, but we can't set a date until the Red Sox have put out their schedule.
It's out. They just did it like a week ago.
Really?
Yes.
He's season.
Early.
RedSox.com, yes, it is early. It's usually,
Thank you.
yes.
Okay.
I will be on it tomorrow.
He's a,
We'll have to see
he's
how
a
it's on
season.
Friday,
He's,
because this is a trial run.
yeah, he's a season ticket holder for the
Spring training.
spring training, so he
Ah,
probably gets
okay.
information before.
Okay, so that's good, so we can figure out what to do with that. And then, closing ceremony and have some sort of a time capsule, and that date has not been set yet. So in addition to these events that we're planning from the committee, we also have been working with the other groups that are on the second page. These are the ones that we've worked with fairly extensively up until now. This doesn't mean that there won't be anybody else.
Excuse me, sir, are you here for the selectmen, planning board, Concom? Upstairs, sir, on the second floor in the middle of the building. Excuse me, you guys could just tell he was gonna sit down and all of a sudden maybe miss his meeting.
So there may be, there probably will be other,
But these are the ones that you're,
but these are the ones we've been working with all along.
okay.
And so we know that they're all planning an event
So
or
how do we
events.
get these out to the people?
So the
Can-
next,
Coming to that.
the
Good.
we have two things coming up. We have a banner that we're having printed sort of as we speak, I think.
I actually was today.
So
Being
there's,
printed it,
there's a
I was in touch with you, Glenn.
Yeah, and Gary, I was in touch with Gary.
The second it's in my hands, Gary, I will let you and Gary know.
Perfect.
so, so this is going to be across the road. So
Yep.
we're hoping people will not just look at it once and then stop looking at it forevermore.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah?
If we could get some particulars on that banner, and
Oh.
we could start working on the preliminary stuff with Gary, rather than just having it
Could not agree more.
given to us, and then we have to figure out all the logistical parts of
I will
that.
send that to you tonight. It's 40 feet wide by 4 feet.
Send it to Mary, and then Mary will send it to Gary. So then it doesn't sit in my inbox for a day, and then I forward it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's sort of like a big, you know,
Yep.
here you go. And we are also having printed, as we speak, a save the date, sort of like you would get for a wedding, which is in three parts. So the first part has the logo, and then the second part has this same calendar that is on the first page. And then the calendar part is a tear-off, so you can put it on your refrigerator, whatever.
Please understand,
Save
this
the
is
dates.
one invitation, it's not 3 different
It's-
things.
Yep,
Yeah.
just three parts of one, a threefold of one of
Part
it.
is a summary of everything that you can put a magnet on your refrigerator if you're so inclined.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Okay.
middle part says, please follow us at westnewbury.org Bicentennial Committee for updates and news flashes and stuff like that. So we are, on the Bicentennial Committee, we are concerned, aware, everything, that publicity is really important for this.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're looking for all different ways to spread the word around about things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to save the dates, we hope people will actually follow us at westnewbury.org Bicentennial Committee and look for things on the town website. And
Mary can email that out to almost 700 residents. We can post it on various social media sites. So there's a number of ways to put it out. And I'd do it ongoing, too. I wouldn't,
yeah,
you know, put
no,
it out,
we
put
have
it
to
out,
keep putting out stuff.
put it,
Right, then we'll follow up in another month with
More stuff.
more stuff.
like, put out, I mean, what I'd suggest is put across all those platforms, put these dates out. So if people want to, if they're interested, they can put them in their calendar right now.
Plan, you know.
The more the merrier.
Because that's around school vacation week.
It is the,
end, it's the end
The
weekend.
summer one is
The first
the
one.
week after the
I mean, I'm
July.
sorry, I'm
This
talking
is
about
the-
February.
It's the weekend,
February's the end of the
it's the
vacation.
Yeah,
end of
the
the
end one.
vac- So we're hoping that people will be coming back from their
And it was
vacation.
intentionally.
And that's
pushed
why
to
we
the
put
end
it, that's why we
instead
put
of
the big townwide birthday party with the cakes and all that kind
Mhm.
of stuff is on Sunday.
Mhm.
So that,
That sounds like a good,
Time, yeah.
strategy, yeah.
Yeah, this is all,
Yeah.
that's great.
Great.
And what we can do is we can put that on our town bulletin board,
Mhm.
which runs on the cable access channels.
Great,
So I'll take care of that.
thank you.
So what
Would it,
events?
can I ask a couple of questions about that? Would it be helpful, how does the social media thing work now with our new social media policies?
Well, we
And
aren't
like-
using it
Which-
at all
which- which-
because,
which are
like-
posted?
Now, do you have your own Facebook page, LinkedIn through, or is it all just,
Town page.
it's just a town page? So you have to go to the town, Bicentennial Committee would have their own page on our website, and so it's
we do,
basically,
we do.
yep, so it's basically almost the same thing. Would it be helpful, I mean, do we have, anybody have their own Facebook or
Well,
Instagram or
I-
any accounts that come off the town website?
We had some pre-existing ones. I think that the idea is to concentrate them all on the town page, which has like, I don't know what the town page has, 800 followers, versus like, and I'll just use the planning board as an example, they put a page out and they have like 20 followers, so nobody sees it, versus the town page.
No, I understand, but there are some town,
Well,
Web pages that have
On
thousands.
the West Newbury News, I just do it myself as
Mhm.
Casey Swallow. So,
Mhm.
when we had some Red Sox tickets left that we needed
Yep.
to sell,
I saw
I
that.
just put a notice on the West Newbury News, so I do use that. And we do have our page on the website.
Okay. And you think that's adequate?
No, not really, but I had a lady call about Red Sox tickets, and she wasn't a little old lady. She was a perfectly normal human
Mhm.
being, and she said she doesn't use social media, and she didn't realize that there were any Red Sox tickets available. So, I mean, we had put posters in the food mart,
You-
and we had put it on the.
You only can do is what you can do, and then it finds out that,
And, so
Some people
clearly
do.
there are people we're not gonna reach.
mhm.
Well, that's why it's important to put it out across
Yeah,
as many
yeah.
platforms
Well,
as
and that's,
possible.
we're really aware of that we need to do as much as we can to try to expand the reach of what we're doing for publicity. So we'll continue to use the website and I'll continue to put stuff on the West Newbury News. That reaches a lot of people. And, if, like, Mary's gonna put this now on the town
Mhm.
Facebook page, right?
Now, do you need something from them, Mary, or is this adequate that you could post this on the town website
I
tomorrow?
can send you the
You're
file.
gonna send it to me.
Yeah, I'll send you
We'll
the file.
look at
Can I ask a question now?
Mhm. Now, do you have a question? Yeah, 1 second, please. Joe? Yeah, 1 second, one second. You have to use the microphone. Joe just was going to be first. I didn't know if you had one or not. Yep.
So my question is, and there might be more than one event, but there's a whole list of public officials, like the governor, lieutenant governor, congressman, state representative, state senator. Are we going to invite them to like and I don't know what, I would defer to you, but like the black tie event, the
We're gonna invite
parade? or-
people to the black tie event, we're gonna invite people to the opening ceremony, which is on Saturday, July 6th. We already know that, I think, is it Lenny Mayer that's coming to the parade?
Senator Tar, I
And Senator
spoke
Tar,
with
so we
Senator
already know
Tar.
that
He's
that
coming
they're
to the
doing that,
parade.
to the parade.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Lenny comes
Yeah.
to every parade.
And I wondered if, he has we could, before he comes here, maybe we should even discuss it. He has a band, but I don't know if, it's kind of a rock band that he has with it, that
Bruce?
goes with it when
Bruce
he goes to
does.
his parades. But I don't know if it's appropriate for a Memorial Day parade. I don't
Well,
know.
One thing,
They could be versatile.
I have a question, and then when you ask a question, then you have to come up here. Please, no?
Oh.
Yeah, come on up.
Chris, Chris.
Sorry.
And you got to turn it on too.
Yep.
There's a button
Just hit
that
the
says
button until the,
push.
until the,
The light turns green.
okay, that'll be good. Nope.
Still red, Chris.
Is it turned on underneath?
I don't know.
Just a quick question. I came in a little late, but your banner, does it have your link to the West Newbury page? the westnewbury.org?
Right now, the banner it just has the dates, and we're going to update it. We're hoping to get some major sponsors for this.
So then you
And
can
the
put things on the
Major sponsor
banner.
would be on the banner. So at that point, the banner has to come down and be,
Mhm.
have a piece sewed onto it, or whatever you do.
Yeah, that's not a
With
problem.
the major sponsors, but we don't have the website on it, and that is actually
Probably a good idea.
probably a good idea. Too late?
Well, you can work that
No,
out.
we're not too late. We're not too late.
So
It's
what-
not
It's
being printed
interchange,
yet. We're-
like, in
we're-
other words, can you put it up and, okay, this week is the birthday party, and then 3 weeks later, you could put something different on it, or no?
No, this is just-
If Mr. Kemper and Mr. Bill will allow us to put something up, get it down and put it back up.
Oh, okay.
No, Mr.
Gotcha.
Bill will be long gone by
Mr.
then.
Bill be gone.
So,
Well, but you're absolutely right in asking that question. I mean, we are going to put things on the website, and we'll post them on West Newbury News.
Sir,
and
can I
on
help you?
West Newbury.
Conservation?
second
Upstairs.
floor, sir, in the middle of the building. You can take the elevator or stairs to your right. We need to get a better thing in the lobby, please.
So as things are coming up, we'll contact Mary, say, please put it on the
Yep.
West Newbury Facebook page.
Mhm.
We'll put it on our page on the website.
Can I ask a question of Jen, please? Jen, didn't you have a banner made for your Arts Foundation, and then you were able to change it up for different things? So you can actually do that. So I would actually ask your banner made, so they had like their logo on it, but then when they were having they paid the money for that, and then when they're having a new event, then they were able to put that, and it looked good. So you can do that.
Yeah.
One thing, as you might imagine, the committee had 9 or 11 drafts of this banner,
Mm-hmm.
and we simplified, because it's a banner, you're driving your car, you can't have a ton of information on there.
Right.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
but-
not worth it,
But
yeah.
westnewbury.org, we'll give that very serious consideration, but it's still got to be very, very simple. Two things that I just wanted to say, and I might as well, the banner's one, the other one is the black tie affair. The black tie affair, the committee understands that the majority of the people in West Newbury
No, I'm sorry, no, yep, you go on, yep, I'm sorry.
will not be attending, but on the other hand, you mentioned, are you inviting the governor, are you inviting the, yes, we are. And also, as we seek sponsors, the Black Tie Gala is something we can offer them, and will be offering them. So, all that thinking that you're questioning is incorporated in these two things. Banner needs to be simple. Black tie affair, I think will go very well, and I personally am going to put an all-out blitz starting in about a month.
So can I try to make a contribution to this?
Yes.
When Lenny and Senator Tarr they're coming in tonight. I think part of this would be to get, and the governor might be able to do it, well, he's gonna, but have them change our sign to correct the right date. So the one coming in from Newburyport says 1817 or 18?
17, yeah.
17, and then the one coming in from Groveland's the right date.
Is correct, yeah.
Is correct. So I'm going to ask them, part of their, contribution, that the state gave us $25,000 also, thanks to Lenny
Yes,
and
we're-
Senator Tarr and the governor.
Overlap. We'll thank them.
See if they can get that, because that's a state road, so we can't just change it. So if they can change that for us during during that week, maybe, have like
And
an
it
unveil.
will generate some buzz, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So is that okay if I work on that?
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
we'll make
And-
everything we can out of it,
Okay,
without insulting anybody.
so I'll work on that, and I'll do that. Okay,
It's great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, very nice job. I like it.
Excellent.
That's perfect.
Good.
A lot of work.
He's come a long way from saying, no, I don't want
You
this.
made Joe happy, so it's good. So,
It had to be good.
Town meeting voted. I accept their,
I know, come on, you gotta take some ribbon, Joe, come on.
and for all of those, no.
Gives me a reason to lose some weight, because I do have a tuxedo in my closet that I used to be able to get into.
Actually, you know, it's.
I want to see that bow tie going.
We did a survey, and there are quite a few people who thought the black tie gala sounded like a great idea.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
request for street opening permit.
I move to approve the street opening permit for number 10A Norino Drive, West Newbury.
Is there anybody here tonight about that? Okay. It's been,
With the provisions outlined.
yep. It's been moved and
Second.
seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Request for one-day liquor license for Gary Bill Retirement Party on September 13th.
I move to approve the one-day liquor license in the name of Angus Jennings for a one-day liquor license for Thursday, September 13th, 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think he wants to say something.
I would just note that I had incorrectly listed on the agenda, it would be in the annex, when in fact it would be in the old town hall.
Right.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
just to make that clear.
Yep.
I think we should start, never mind.
What's that?
Nothing. People get irritated when we say the old town hall. It's the town hall across from the library,
I was
but,
gonna say something.
yeah, but it is what it is. Review of the town Salisbury intermunicipal harbor agreement. Why did you continue this with nobody? I met with Angus. He wasn't sure. What's up?
Oh, well, because I wanted to know why the budgeting went from 4,000 to 6,000.
Mm-hmm.
Second question is, how much activity did we actually have? How many times did the boat actually travel to
Got it.
our environments, you know, all that kind of stuff?
Yep. Angus, I talked to Ray today.
I did as well.
Yeah, and he said that he sent you some things over in the gallon and the flowage, and they come up a lot, depending on if they get pumped out or not. So you want to see, what do you want to know? Tell me.
Well, I read the thing, it didn't seem.
Did you have July and August?
No, I didn't have.
So that's the big, yeah.
Right, that's what
Yeah,
I
that's-
just received this afternoon.
But we didn't have.
Yeah, I know, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, so I want to make sure you get it.
So, in your packet, the quarterly report through June 30th. Since July 1st, they've supported 7 boats, pumped out 130 gallons of waste, spent 45 and a half man-hours toward this agreement so far this fiscal year.
Okay.
150 gallons. So, and there were some questions about, it's a Clean Waters Act, okay? And so, I asked to increase it because I thought it was going to be, maybe used a little bit more this year, because we hadn't had it, and we were doing some outreach. And Ray's come in with you, right, Mary, and has done some outreach and got all the emails. He emails everybody. He posts the times on the website that they're going up there. So, are you trying to figure out how many pump outs that is?
Keep talking.
Okay. So the other things that he mentioned to us, did he mention to you, Angus, too, about he wants to meet with the Harbor Commission and to try to, which he's already done, to try to get the word out, but to talk about water skiers that, some stuff that they're noticing and some stuff that we're getting complaints in about some egregious acts on the water and no wake zones, and be able to help us out in that capacity also.
Right, I mean, I don't have a problem with that.
Mhm.
The boat specifically is not designed for that
Those are patrol activities.
as a
Yep.
patrol vessel.
Exactly. Mhm. I'm saying that he could help us out, no,
With a different boat?
correct.
Oh,
Because you
okay.
can't use that as a grant.
Because, I mean, if it's 150 gallons and we're paying
We're not paying-
$6,000.
But we're
for
not
it.
paying $6,000 because I don't know if all that money is going to be used. We're only anticipating it's going to go back to free cash, and we get half that money back through the excise tax from the state.
Correct, yeah.
And it's all about the Clean Waters Act. And supposedly, did he tell you this information today? About when we purchased the boat, we were kind of supposed to help out Haverhill too? Did he tell you that?
No, that didn't come up.
Yeah, part of the state, like we were helping out Haverhill, going up to Casimir Yacht Club and pumping out there, so they've done that a little bit, only once. But it's all about, because I think that why we got the.
Years ago.
A couple of years ago, we got the call from Haverhill saying, how come you're not using your boat anymore?
Right, right.
You're not gonna run it, are we gonna run it? It kind of all now kind of circles around.
Oh, right, they talked to Mike, and then it kind of, I thought they went their own direction, though.
No, I don't know, no. I don't know.
Okay.
We just like, said, oh, they didn't call back again.
So
And that
we-
kind of prompted us to say, oh, yeah, that's right, we're not using it, and so we want, are we going to, then the state said, well, if you're not going to do it, you got to give the boat and the engine
Right.
back.
Right, so are we okay with this now?
Are you okay with it?
Okay, I just
So,
wanted to get a little
just to
more-
give you, it's fair, so to give you, a holding tank's probably 10 to 15 gallons.
Okay. What's your question?
Just so you understand, because he gave you the amount of gallons.
Right, right.
Okay. So,
Because
10,
otherwise,
yeah.
it's this,
So we,
it's $40 a gallon.
I'm trying to make him happy, I'm trying to make
It's
him.
$40 a gallon, and that's like maple syrup.
What do you always just mention food because I'm fat?
No, I think about maple syrup a lot.
I actually don't. but-
I'd like to
Okay,
make,
are you done? Are
I-
you done with this? Okay,
Okay,
hold on, hold on.
I got enough information. all right?
Okay, Angus.
I do have a clarification question. So the billing has been based on actual services rendered, but the contract is written for 4 equal quarterly payments. So
Can you work that out with them?
if I'm hearing the board, the intent is for payment for services rendered.
Yes, that's what, that's
Which
what it was
is
always,
has been invoiced to this point.
that was,
It's certainly better for us that way.
no, yeah, that was never the agreement, and I wouldn't do it that way because we're just giving
I'm
that.
totally in favor with that way, yeah.
Yeah, okay?
okay, so I move to approve the intermunicipal agreement with the town of Salisbury through the period of July 1st, 2019, with the stipulation that payment is for services rendered.
Second.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Any questions or any concerns? None?
Aye.
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 Have you had an update, Mr. Mayor, on Mr. Tar?
He just called about 10 minutes ago. He said he'll be on time, but he works on tar time, so.
Let's do the sign.
Add that a little bit.
Do the sign.
Yes.
That way the chief can leave,
Okay.
or stay, it's up to him.
Review of current public safety sign. Before we, Chief, did you want to speak to this, or are you involved in this, or, no?
No? Oh, I thought you were here for it, never mind.
Okay, so,
Oh,
okay, so, yeah, can I ask, where's Mike? Oh, he's over the election?
He's doing the election, yeah.
He's over here all day, he just doesn't want to be here. Are you, if you're here for this, Chief, come on up, I didn't know you were here for this particular thing. Now, I have a question. Why is this even here in front of us? Is it just a courtesy thing you're going to tell us? But I think the authority would be not us. Angus would take care of this with the chief. If I'm not mistaken, the chief has the authority about all the grounds and everything that goes on over there. That would include signs and things like that. So I'm thinking about the future. I don't know if you're here just for a courtesy, but I would not like to see these type of things in front of us anymore. I would think this would be taken care of with Angus and the chief. We in all in agreement with that at least? Okay, chief, how are you? Good evening, sir.
Good.
So, you want to talk about a sign, or I've seen it, I have no problem. You're going to relocate the sign in the front, because we're going to get a new one to the side entrance. That's actually an excellent idea. Any costs involved in it? Are we going to have it illuminated like we do at the front?
Probably not.
Okay. So then I'd try to keep it away from the street so people don't run into it. They might not know it's there.
I know the last time we spoke about it, the board wanted to kind of mull it over a little. I threw out 2 locations of possible placement, but it's,
what's the second one?
the first one was right up closer to the front door, like the pathway. The second one was on the back entrance where that garage is, somewhere in that
I
general
would
area.
leave that up to your trust, in your trust.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're both fine with me.
The one of the reasons why we hired you and hired the
Okay.
town manager, so we could try to get away from doing stuff like this. So, awesome. Thank you, sir.
Good, thank you.
ETA?
Okay, yeah, I don't care. Okay.
Never mind.
Well, I care
Never
about
mind.
him, but, do we feel like everybody's here to talk about the Park and Rep pipe stave thing? We're a little early.
A little early.
Okay, review of proposed and potential warrant articles for the fall town meeting.
That's a lot of stuff.
You want to do that, or you want to do minutes? We have nothing left, gentlemen. You want to do your updates, and we'll do the articles after everybody leaves? What do you want to do?
That would be good.
Yeah.
I think the articles will take the most time tonight, so I'd be
Yeah.
happy to move to item J with the consent of the chair.
Yes, sir.
So, in item J, I've set out what I understood to be the process, and just wanted to make sure I'm totally clear on that, in terms of,
But you gave us options in your thing. So, how would you like it to go? Or what would your recommendation be?
I would like to essentially handle the process. I've tracking all the applicants as they come in. Once the position closes on the 20th, I would shortlist a number of people for interview, depending on how many qualified candidates there could be. Well, I don't want to hazard a guess as to how many I would interview initially. It could be as many as, maybe as many as 8, perhaps more, perhaps less. So, and depending on how many first-round interviews, that would determine, as well as on the strength of those interviews, whether that would then go right to finalist interviews, or whether there might end up being 3 rounds of interviews, including finalist interviews. So my preference would be, at the end of that process, to bring forward a single candidate with my recommendation for appointment, bring it to this board for the board's vote, and in the event the board did not appoint the candidate that I recommend, I would then bring forward a second candidate at a subsequent meeting. But that would be in favor of bringing forward multiple finalists for interview in a public forum, which I think would be counterproductive.
I would agree. Mr. Chairman?
You have a question?
Comment?
Yep.
So, you know, the intent of our legislation was to delegate the appointing authority and managerial oversight for the DPW director to the town manager. Senate Council removed that paragraph, and we felt at the time adding it back in would cause further prolong an already delayed process. So I think we should honor the original intent and adopt a policy to give the town manager the authority to hire, fire, and manage the DPW director position. That's my opinion.
I'm not being rude, we just went out of order so much tonight. I'm trying to get back in
Yeah, no problem.
to the papers.
Comments?
I would totally agree with that, but then again, if my memory serves me correct, the town manager gave us a couple of ways of him being able to do that. And one of them was that one selectman, if I'm not mistaken, you gave a couple of scenarios on how the process was going to work, Angus, and one of the examples you used is one of the selectmen could sit into the interview, and I would actually not like that idea.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I would actually like you to take care of everything, us not to see any resumes, not to see any part of the process. Only the part of the process would be the final candidate that you would bring to us. And then we would then interview that person, gentlemen, or we would just take Angus's we would then get his credentials, I would assume, or her credentials, and then, you know, look through them as we would always would information, and then make a determination and just go with your appointment. How do you see that happening in front of us? Right, is that okay?
In processes where, the reason that I feel that, notwithstanding the sentiment of Selectman Anderson, which I appreciate what's behind that, but what I don't want is any question as to the validity of the appointment. So while this board, I believe, could adopt that policy, that statute still remains. And so I don't want a situation where
Isn't
someone's
that
been
subdivi-
appointed and then
yeah.
there's some question down the road as to whether that was a valid appointment. So my first town hall job as a town planner, I was interviewed by the planning board, and then interviewed the second time by the planning board, and then interviewed by the selectmen. The selectmen made the appointment, but it was a very cursory interview. It wasn't really a probing interview, it was more of a getting to know you. I think if they had seen something that they were very alarmed, I think they would have been within their rights to take it in a different direction, but as it turned out, it was really a very cordial meet and greet, and then the appointment was made, so it was fairly ceremonial.
So that's how this would be.
That's how I want to do it.
That would be.
I'm just
if
trying
I
to
make
get-
a- if I
I'm
make
trying to
a
get
good
the ground rules.
recommendation, I would hope that that's how.
I agree 100% with what you said.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to be able to see something that if I thought was a complete red flag, that I could
So the process
weigh
is,
in on that.
yeah, well,
Well, yeah.
the process is going to be that Angus is going to obviously keep us up to date on the process, maybe. And then, but he's going to handle that. And then he's going to have the resume, maybe some backup points from you, Angus, or maybe some backup points
Oh,
from
yeah.
you.
Yep.
Maybe a executive summary of the individual, telling us that this is the reason why he's going to appoint them. We'd have that in our packet,
Yeah.
4 or 5 days ahead of time, so if there was something that came up, you'd be able to get a hold of Angus, or then you could ask that person in the interview. Is that okay with you?
Yeah,
Okay.
So this is an important policy, Mary. You might want to make note. So I move to delegate the selectmen's authority to the town manager to hire, fire, and manage the DPW position.
No.
but that's, no.
No, we can't do it that way.
We can't do that.
Why not?
Hire, fire, because
With,
the legislation.
with the approval, with the 15-day approval that's in the legislation, because we can't override that.
Well, but there's still.
but we still have
No,
to-
you can't do that, Joe.
Yeah, that's what Angus is saying, that we can't
can't
do it
do
that
that.
way. Because it might be questioned in the future if the appointment was made legitimately or official or whatever you want to call it. So
No,
because of that
That's
looming
countermanding the legislation.
Okay, maybe maybe it didn't come out right. What I meant was that that stays in place because it's in the legislation. That's what I meant. How many days is it?
Well, the 15 days is in
15
the
days.
2017 legislation. The
Yeah.
issue is the 2005 legislation,
Yeah.
which puts the appointment
this-
authority squarely with the Board of Selectmen.
that the state
Well, then we're
lawyers.
making, then we're, okay, so we are officially making the appointment in a meeting, yes. We have to do that.
Correct.
Okay,
yeah.
so I amended that to include that we make the official appointment based on your recommendation.
See, we wouldn't be talking about this if the Senate lawyers didn't mess us all up and put it back in our town manager's legislation, but, don't worry about it. Oh, hi, Senator Tar, how are you today?
Nice to see you too, Mr. Chairman.
So, I don't think we need to make it that formal in the sense that, let's
Well,
just.
we need to let him know he has that authority to
But,
manage the position.
You didn't let me finish.
Okay.
Okay, but that motion or whatever you said is not good, so you want to do it again? Do you feel, the only question that you have, Angus, is the appointment portion of it, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the managing and
So it's not
the
really-
firing
it's
portion
not-
of
It's
it,
not really the hiring, firing, it's the managing.
yeah, that's what he wants in it, so that's
Okay.
what I'm trying to get at.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I move to delegate the selectmen's authority to the town manager to manage the DPW position.
You feel good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, and with that understanding is all the stuff that we had talked about earlier about you bringing us a candidate, and then we would appoint them and so forth. All right?
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mary, did you get what we were aiming at there? Okay.
Okay, let's get Lenny Mayor and Senator Tar here, because they probably have some celebration parties they're gonna be going to tonight at headquarters.
Strong opposition tonight? You don't have any opposition even from the November election, right?
Senator Tar does not,
Yes.
but thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we're here to talk about a item in the budget, $25,000 for the town of West Newbury, help celebrate our bicentennial. I just want to point out that this all started with an email from Judith Gregg, who was on the committee for that celebration, and she had sent me an email claiming that Representative James Kelquist had gotten $25,000 for the town of Amesbury. And so she inquired about the town of West Newbury doing the same. And I got it into the House version of the budget, and Senator Tarr also got it into the Senate version. And so that's helpful, because I guess we can't conference it out once both chambers have it in the budget. And we're very fortunate. We had the governor sign off on it, and we will be getting the $25,000. And I believe she mentioned something about maybe a fireworks celebration. Which would be great.
Good.
It'd be great to see.
It's fantastic, yes.
Yeah, it really is.
Is there any other updates you guys want to give us about the budget that you guys fought for along the way? Because I think there were a few things, especially with regionalized transportation. I know you didn't get as much as you wanted, but I know you both were fighting for one of those things. I saw some paperwork come across my desk. So would you mind just telling us that? Just
But before we move to that, Mr.
Yep.
Chairman, I just want to point out that the way that this earmark worked out was exactly the way that things are supposed to work. We heard from you. Representative Mira picked up on that signal immediately, got it into the House budget. He transmitted it to us. We got it into the Senate budget. And as he mentioned, it was beyond conference, so it had to be included in the budget because the same language was in each version. And we look forward to a very robust celebration of this great town with that $25,000.
So actually, before we move on to something else, let's talk about bicentennial. So the bicentennial, some of the bicentennial committee members were in tonight, and I told them that I would spearhead something, and I would talk to you guys tonight about that, because the state would be the only ones being able to do that. We have on 113, which is obviously a state road, we have a sign entering West Newbury on that side, and we have one on Newburyport side. Well, the one on the Newburyport side says that, the established one, 7, is wrong. It's
Wrong year.
wrong year.
The border, the border signs?
Yeah.
Yeah, the boy entering, West Newbury, and there's one here. So the one, it's been wrong since I've lived in town. So it says, it's 17. It's supposed to, it's 18.
2017,
1817 and not 18. And the one going to Groveland is correct. So we're going to give you a bunch of time. We'd like to do that sometime in July during the week-long celebration that we have planned. If we could maybe get that changed and maybe have an unveiling with you two, maybe the governor or whomever, lieutenant governor, anybody, or just you guys. But if any way you guys can handle getting that done or send me in the right direction, that would be very helpful.
We will go to work on that tomorrow. So it's on the Newburyport side.
Correct.
And it's interesting, perhaps in those days they measured time differently, so there was a time difference of a year is going east to west, I don't know, but, so at any rate, and,
That's the lower, that
Don't
was the
do
lower
it too
part.
fast. We
Yeah.
don't
We don't want it, yeah, we want it done.
we
Yeah.
want this to be a climactic kind of a thing
Yeah,
in July of
yes,
next
it's,
year.
correct. July of 2019, everything starts kind of July 6th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, that whole week. We have things that are around. Okay?
So the representative and I will go to work on that. We will send a joint letter over to Mass Highway, and we'll also make a phone call.
Right.
And we'll keep you all in the loop through Angus and let you guys know what's
It
happening.
might be better to
Don't-
work with Angus on that.
Okay, no, we will, but we'll work through him, but let you all know what's happening.
Mhm.
And even for state government, a year to get a sign should be okay. So so we'll work on that. We'll tell them, hold it back, just so we make sure that we, we get the right
Unusually,
time.
we wanted,
Okay.
Yes, rarely, David, do we get those kind of requests, so.
Okay, thank
to
you.
hold something back.
So is there anything else?
So the quick update, I think, and you alluded to it, Mr. Chairman, is the movement that we had this year, and it was in the House and the Senate, and it was particularly, I would argue that it happened particularly because a lot of the leadership that came out of our region relative to trying to improve some of our school funding. And there are two notable areas of improvement. One was the circuit breaker for special education, and the other was regional school transportation. And we, as a delegation, and Representative Mira was certainly very strong in his advocacy for this in the House, made the point that the commitments that we've already made in education need to be kept before we embark on new spending with some of the new revenue that we've had from our economic growth. And so you can highlight a number of things in education where there are commitments made in statute. Regional school transportation is to be reimbursed at 100%. The special education circuit breaker is to be funded at 75% over the threshold amount. There are a number of those, and we made the argument that we are fortunate enough to have new revenue, but before we go in a new direction, we need to honor those things. And so we were able to get the special education circuit breaker fully funded at the 75% level, and we did get a fairly substantial increase in regional school transportation.
70 to 80?
So, yes, it's a percentage.
Yes.
Joe. So those are good. We still want to get to 100% on regional school transportation.
That was the question I was going to ask. Is the intent going forward to?
It surely is.
Well, at least we're trending in the right direction.
We are, and again, I think the proposition that's important here is that on these basic things, we are going to be unrelenting until we meet what we have promised that we would do.
Excellent.
And so here's a couple of good examples. The third example that I would call everyone's attention to.
Somebody brought their motorcycle for voting, I guess. Sorry, I didn't know what was going to
I
happen.
thought you had great sound effects here at Town Hall. I was supposed to say something momentous when the
I know,
thunder
man.
struck. But the third thing is something that we've been working on for quite a while, which is the foundation budget and its deficiency with regard to the real cost of educating students in Massachusetts. And I'm sure probably everyone in this room would remember that when we passed the Education Reform Act of 1993, the foundation budget was supposed to be reviewed periodically to make sure that it was keeping pace with the cost of doing what the rest of the act said that local school districts had to do. And that never happened in earnest. There was one attempt at it a few years ago, but we worked hard to get, in 2015, that Foundation Budget Review Commission constituted, and it essentially confirmed what we had thought, that we had fallen very far behind. And there are a number of areas where we've fallen far behind, but there were two areas in particular. One was actually the assumed rate of special education enrollment, and the other one was the cost of health insurance for teachers. And if you put all that bundle of recommendations together, you would find that we were about $1.8 billion short statewide. And so we made the argument that we need to begin chipping away at that as well. It's a big number, so we probably wouldn't be able to get all of it in 1 year. But we are making progress on the Foundation Budget Review Commission recommendations as well. And credit also to Governor Baker, who has focused particularly on the health insurance component to try to help school districts get back to where they should be on that. So, in addition to the other things, we are going to continue to be very vigorous in our pursuit of closing that gap that the commission identified.
Okay.
And the last thing I would say on the subject is that we also have been successful in pushing the idea that never again should we go more than anywhere between 3 and 5 years without another review. Because if we don't keep reviewing the formula, we're going to continue to have these disparities grow over time. And had we been doing that, this gap would have been much easier to close than waiting all of the time that we have and now trying to come up with nearly $2 billion. I've been able to get that particular amendment in several different vehicles to review it. One version of the amendment is 3 years, one version is 5. Representative Mayer has supported that, but that is another important part of this that we're going to continue to push for.
Good. Any questions?
Yes, actually. I'm very appreciative of the $25,000, so thank you.
You're welcome.
I have relatives that live in Topsfield, so I kind of talk to them. And they have, I believe Representative Hill and Senator Lovely represent that particular town, and they had occasion to visit on the 20th, and they must have won the jackpot, because I think they got like $2 million worth of, almost like 1.8 million of various things. I mean, I could go down the list, but so.
It might be helpful so they can understand.
Oh, you want me to? Oh, it was $100,000 for an elevator grant. That was actual cash money. $500,000 economic development bond bill So that's actually up to the administration whether they're going to release it or not, obviously. $1 million bond bill for a water treatment plant, that's pretty big. 250,000 soil contamination. And they talked about their increase in their, again, the school transportation, and also a $6,600 mass DEP recycling grant they got.
So those are things they applied for.
Yeah.
Some of them, yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm looking at myself, are we not? like-
Applying for things.
Yes.
Grants and stuff.
So,
That was our questioning tonight. We're not trying to,
Yes.
we're not,
No,
we're not
understood.
trying to pit towns against each other. We just see that Joe brought that to my
We're
attention.
not being proactive. in it.
Yeah, so I said, it's a great opportunity to ask when they come in.
well, so I would suggest that the $25,000 item for the bicentennial is an example of how to do it.
Perfect, yep.
And the fact that you are, in fact, participating, as you should, in communicating with us. One thing that we always do in our offices is keep a list, and again, if Angus would send us from time to time a list of capital projects. So what happens, Joe, a lot of times these bond bills come up, and we will go to the list that we keep and say, okay, what category in this bond bill
Right.
matches
What
this
fits?
need in which community? So we'll periodically ask you and send you out forms, but even without us doing that, if you have something that you'd like to get funded, please tell us, because we track all that stuff.
Right.
And with regard to applications, we try to send you information when we think there might be a grant that might fit. We may not cover all of them, but
Right.
it's a two-way street. So we try to tell you when there's an opportunity. and
Which
we
you
would hope
have.
That you would let us know when there is something that you need to have funded. So an example in that category is, we've talked with a couple of you about the importance of trying to get funding in the small bridge
For
program.
the bridge, right, yeah.
And so that's very high on our list right now to try to push that, because we
Perfect.
know it's important.
Perfect.
And in fact, the chair had mentioned that to both Lenny and I
Mm-hmm.
a while ago. We got on top of that. We reached out to Mass DOT. We're trying to get some more traction on it. That's maybe.
And it seemed like
that.
that, if I was not mistaken, when we first talked, I was talking, could you push the 251 they were asking for? And then you said, I'll see what I can do, Glenn. When we and Lenny were both sitting, all three of us were standing there, and then I found out it was 500, so thanks for pushing, both of you, because I don't know how it turned into 500, but I'm happy about it.
Well, that oftentimes happens with bridge projects and particularly with older bridges. So again, there's an example of how it's supposed to work. We had that conversation with you,
Yeah,
and
it's
it
just-
moved up on our list. So my only ask is that just whenever you have something, just send it to us.
One
And
thing,
it may not always bear fruit, but oftentimes it does.
I think it's going to help too, and I think Joe and I had this conversation, we were just talking about this tonight, and I thought it would be great to talk to you about, is because we haven't had a town manager or somebody, and I said, so there has been kind of a little bit of disconnect over the last couple of years, and we need to get back on the ball in that respect. Do you have any questions?
No, I was just going to mention the bridge too. I mean, that's, I think that's probably the one thing we would, if we had to pick something, that was it,
That's a
yeah.
priority, absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of people rely on that one bridge, it's a small one, but obviously. it's very-
That was a lightning rod, and a bigger one than we thought it was from West Newbury. That means a lot more to our people than it does Newburyport. So we wanted to make sure that they stayed on top of it, and thanks for that, because we
Yeah, well,
need
see,
that
I
fixed.
gotta say, it's.
Can you
all
use the
over
microphone,
legislative.
please?
Sure. Senator Katie Ives and Representative Jim Kalkos, they represent Newburyport.
Mm-hmm.
And, we work hand in hand with them on an almost daily basis. Our offices communicate all the time. And it was a team effort to get that done. Because
Mm-hmm.
they were feeling the heat too. I mean, this is a priority, something we all wanted to fund.
Good, thank you. And the bicentennial committee, the representatives they wanted me to say thank you for that money, too.
Oh, you're
I
welcome,
wanna-
yeah. I want to give credit to Judy Gregg. She's the one that spearheaded this. She's the one that reached out to us initially. And like Bruce said, that's how, we want it to work.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good luck tonight, both of you.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
And we'll just restate that it's a real pleasure to work with all of you, and we look forward to
Yeah.
continuing to do that. And please, if ever we can be helpful, let us know, and we will try to do the same.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
take care.
Hold on for 1 second. Do you have all their information?
I sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, Angus, I'm going to give you one thing. In order to get the money for the bicentennial, the best way to do that right now is to actually write a letter asking for it to Secretary Ash. I have his address here, and also the language so that you know exactly what.
How to ask.
And,
Please and thank you.
The only thing I would ask is if you would copy us on that.
Of course.
So we can follow up. But here's the most significant contact info for the evening. Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
All right, thank you very much.
Bye.
Have a great night, guys. I have lobbied me for the money on the 4th of July parade for the bicentennial celebration. Everybody was covered, right?
He was captive. He couldn't escape.
Have a good night, guys.
Take care. Oh, you got him on July 4th on that?
Yeah, and the parade had stopped, so he couldn't get away from me.
Okay. G, update on Pipe Stave Committee and Park and Recs proposals to the Community Preservation Committee. Anybody here for that?
Mr. Chairman, the chairman of the Community Preservation Committee is here tonight,
Okay.
not me.
Are they going to talk about it also? Okay.
What I want to share with you is an overview that Jack and myself put together. Jack was at the meeting, I know Angus, you were at the meeting. Joe, you were at the meeting. I want to give an overview of that exactly, sort of the level set, the discussion that went on at that meeting. Also, I want to
Thanks,
thank the
Bill.
West Newbury coaches for coming tonight. It's a very important discussion.
You need to get the microphone.
I
Please.
want to thank the coaches who are coming. A lot of them came from practice, and they also have meetings after this, so thank you very much, guys. So this is the overview of the CPC meeting on Thursday, August 23rd, 2018. The following notes and comments are from Bill Backrack and Jack Foley, Parks and Recreation Commissioners, who attended the CPC meeting. These notes and comments are not the approved minutes of the meeting on Thursday, August 23rd, 2018. The CPC committee attendees the night of August 23rd were Joe Anderson, Bill Backrack, Ray Cook, Mary Harada, Bob Janes, Judy Meisner, and Sherry Prune. This information is to provide background on the CPC meeting to review and approve the two project funding applications. Application number 1, Pipe Stave Hill Active Recreational Area Expansion to include the Dunn property. This project application asks for the approval for $51,500 for the scope of services for wetland and endangered species habitat area, traffic impact assessment study including Main Street, Page School, and Chase Street, conceptual master plan for active recreational areas being considered, including multi-use fields, grass or turf, fitness trails, tennis courts, and dog park, along with the concession stand, restroom facility, entrance and exit, and parking for the upper field of the Dunn property and public meetings. Application number 2, pipe stave and rehabilitation to improve parking and circulation. This project application asks for the approval of $106,000 for constructing a parking lot in the upper field of Dunn property, including tree and brush clearing, constructing asterisk roads and parking lot, gravel fill for the road and parking lot, fencing, signage, and modifications to the existing area. Step 1 of the process was to review and discuss both applications for funding. CPC committee approved reviewing and discussing both applications before any vote was taken. This part of the meeting took about 2 hours. The committee felt it was a little awkward having two competing applications, both asking to build a parking area. They felt there should have been a more coordinated effort. The key discussion points focused on the Parks and Rec conceptual master plan for the Dunn property, including entrance and exit, access road, and parking on the upper field. The committee felt that having a conceptual master plan was very important for the Dunn property. The conceptual master plan would include how all the active recreation pieces would fit together: multi-use fields, grass or turf, fitness trails, tennis courts and dog park, along with the concession stand, restroom facility, entrance and exit, and parking for the upper field of the Dunn property. Please note that some of these items may not be included in the Phase 1 implementation of the active recreational areas, but would be noted in the longer-term plan for expansion. Phase 1 implementation will be based on feedback from public meetings, which will include the residents' needs and benefits today, as well as Phase 1 implementation and maintenance costs. One of the CPC members used the word redundant, pursuant to Upper Dunfield parking, when describing the perceived similarities and differences between the Pipe Stave Committee standalone parking proposal on Upper Dunn and the Parks and Rec Master Plan proposal, to the extent the master plan would pertain to the parking on the upper field of the Dunn property. Because Park and Rec is considering restrooms and snack shack in the same proximity of the proposed parking, a CPC member made the recommendation to use the Parks and Rec design so that the needs of the entire Parks and Rec projects are taken into account. The thinking was that the pipe stave parking could be installed in the wrong place, or be the wrong size, or have the wrong entrance and exit road consideration. Parks and Rec agreed to prioritize building the parking area first. These comments were part of the long discussion, including presentations. Step 2 of the process was to vote to approve both applications. Both applications were then voted on separately. The Parks and Rec application was voted first and passed 6-1. The pipe stave extended parking application was voting next and was not approved 6-1. The caveat to the 6-1 approval vote for the Parks and Rec is to make sure in phase 1 of the scope and services that the conceptual master plan is prioritized to focus on the upper field entrance and exit, access road, and parking on the Dunn property. This should not change the scope of service, only the prioritization of implementation and execution of the plan. You want to do your comments? Or you want me to- It did.
I don't have my, I can.
Yeah, that's right here. And then, go ahead.
So I just added some notes into this as Bill and I were collaborating back and forth. I made the following observations after that meeting. I noticed that CPC members felt a coordinated or integrated parking solution would be beneficial in lieu of an initial standalone parking solution, which a master plan could subsequently be modeled around. It was noted that this approach may delay a parking solution. It was then suggested by CPC members reviewing both applications that parking could perhaps be elevated to a priority under the Park and Rec proposal, minimizing delay. Second observation, CPC members reviewing the applications were initially a bit confused because both applications had similar parking components when comparing the PDF overlay by Pipe Stave Committee showing parking on Upper Dunn compared to the Park and Rec overlays created last spring showing several scenarios of parking on Upper Dunn property at a Park and Rec meeting open to the public on Saturday, March 24th, and subsequently noted as a priority on a matrix of recreational activities. My third observation was that CPC members reviewing the applications also had concerns that if both applications were approved by CPC, this may result in some potential level of confusion or hesitation at town vote in October.
Okay. Anything else? Any questions, gentlemen? You have any questions?
Not right now. Comments, concerns?
So, one thing I want to, sorry, I can't talk until this thing gets.
Here, you can talk.
I'll
Start out.
My only question, I was involved with being on the parking committee, and our committee felt that the reason for having two separate applications and two, so you might say, uncoordinated applications was that in the event that the larger conceptual master plan for the Dunn property did not pass town meeting, then there was, we'd be going back to the drawing board again to solve the existing parking problem at Pipe Stave, and that would then get, the sort of baby would get thrown out with the bathwater, and that problem would not be, would then have to start all over again too. So that was the thinking. Why do we want to have them separate? We knew that there was wasn't that we weren't aware of that. It just that we were feeling, okay, at least this small problem could get solved. We weren't trying to think big. We were thinking that this would not have, because in terms of the size of the parking lot versus the overall dimensions of the Dunn property, this would be using a very, very small parcel of it. So that was the thinking on that.
Yeah, you're right, and I think the concern with the committee is that we felt it was kind of two independent silos not working, that there should have been more coordination.
Well, I don't disagree. We had like basically 2 weeks
No
to,
time,
to,
right,
to do it.
understood.
But go ahead, John, I'm sorry.
You got to get that microphone going, though. Please. Mr. McGrath? Let me see if it but see if it just goes on here.
You'll be able to hear me.
No,
No.
TV.
Give them Archie's.
Yeah, why don't you take ours? Up there. Oh, there it is. There it is.
Thank you. In regarding the presentation that Archie just made, and looking at an aerial photo of that entire site, and thinking of some past solutions at different times to parking issues up there, I can see that there's not been perhaps the ultimate level of management to provide parking spaces that are appropriate for specific events. So I don't have any numbers to prove that there's adequate parking, but I could make an allusion to it. And what I would do from looking at this, which is in your information package, this aerial shows a totally full roadway and parking lot, which from what must be for athletic events, field ball sports. However, the horse dedicated part of the parking lot is totally unused and is barricaded off. So scheduling might have made that available because that's not somebody else's private property, that's part of the town's property of the parking lot up there. But for convenience at other times, it's blocked off. I'm not passing any judgment of that. When the original road was put in 93 and 94, we thought about overflow parking. And if this is the parking lot and this is the horse ring, this area marked out in blue was built for an auxiliary parking lot. It's not in use. The entire area in front of the highway equipment barn is vacant from parking. Many times when the Riding and Driving Club would have a big event with a lot of people coming from elsewhere, they would use the Page School parking lot for cars.
Oh, for cars.
And they would have
A detail.
or emergency management would do it for free, and then they would get some stuff back. So I say if the town were to simply put a set of steps off the back side of that down to Main Street, you already have a crosswalk sign, crosswalk painted. So I say, and then there's another area that's totally underutilized. Recycling is used from 7 to noon, 1 day a week. The waste and material spoils yard from the DPW, which is in behind it, is a large, hard, flat area. With a little bit of effort, you come in off everybody's proposed subsequent future access road. So with a relatively small amount of work, that disposal yard is kept with knowing that it's going to be occasionally used for parking. These events are mostly so. To say that there's an urgency immediately that can't wait for the Park and Recs initiative, I think there's a lot of room for better management practices to utilize the spaces, the areas that are currently available with none to just a little bit of improvement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGrath. So I kind of want to bring this into perspective because we have a lot of people here tonight. So Park and Rec came to the Board of Selectmen many months ago and said, hey, we're thinking about utilizing the Dunn property, and we have a proposal that we've kind of vetted with the town, and we would like to get some engineering money for that. So you brought it to CPC to be able to get some CPC money, to be able to get some engineering money to see if it's even going to be able to work, maybe some cost estimates, delineate the wetlands, and kind of lay the whole thing out and just see what the costs are going to be and so forth and so on. That's what this $51 million is about. It has nothing to do about the project.
1,000, yes.
50, what did I say?
Million.
You said.
Did I? Jesus. And I guess I am. $51,000 is going to be about. So I just want to, I don't think that was set earlier, because the problem we have with meetings is some people come to one, 3 meetings in. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands what the conversation is about this. So, you know what I mean? I forgot to say that earlier. So, I mean, it was approved by the CPC, and it goes forward. But you just came here to give us an update.
My understanding is, talking to Angus on Friday, is that there could potentially be another article added. Is that correct?
So,
Or that would be separate on the town, that would be a town article, not a CPA.
correct.
Which means that for $106,000, where's that money going to come from? Is it going to come out of free cash? And then it gets back to the same question as before. Why don't we have a coordinated effort? And one of the things that I think...
Well, hold on. Can I speak to, that?
It's okay, Glenn. If you don't give me one more minute, please. But what I think what's more important is, one of the things that we're trying to do here is a conceptual plan in order to bring to the town if, let's say it does pass, right, in October, to bring to the town in fall of 2019, right, the plan that what everything could look like in terms of what we're looking for, the cost and everything else. Most of that funding, except for the turf field, would be CPA. We have $2.4 million, and by the way, guys, 3% of your taxes go to the right?
Potentially, up to
No,
3%.
Right.
Up to 3%.
Right.
Currently 3%.
Yeah, but I mean, it depends on the funding, but
No,
3% of your
3%.
taxes goes to that.
Yeah.
You're talking about the match.
the match, oh, I'm sorry, yes, I'm sorry, the match.
For the rest, it's about $350,000 a year. The state does match, we get about $450,000.
You got to speak into the microphone, I'm sorry.
It's about
Hey,
$350,000.
can you speak to me, though? This is
$350,000 a year,
Mhm.
of which we get about $407,000, because with 3% match, you do get additional state funding.
Correct.
And as you know, most of this is growing, so that's where we would come up with the funding and not anything else. And so my concern is, if we put the parking in the upper field and we get that standalone, and this is Bill Bacharach talking, all right? My concern is that, are we really looking at the bigger picture, right, on the terms of the layout? Because if you drive down Chase Street is narrow. And the question's going to come up, can we get in and out of Chase Street if we want to? If not, then your only alternative is what John's talking about, and then coming through the pipe stave into the Upper Dunn property and then down. So now, where we shared with you a conceptual idea of the fields, they may be coming into a different direction. So that's why I think a master conceptual plan is extremely important before we go ahead and put the parking. That's my only comment, Glenn.
Mm-hmm. So the reason why that article, we had a deadline on articles of today.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure that I asked.
It's a currently proposed article.
Yep, I asked for that to be put on, so the Board of Selectmen could talk about it, because I wanted to meet the deadlines that we impose on everybody else that works for the town. So, I mean, it's an article that we're going to discuss tonight at the end of the meeting and see if we want to go with it or not go with it, because all that I've been told since I've been a selectman, and I've been stood up there, and you have sat in front of us, and we've had committees, and I've talked to Angus, we did put some work and some management into this particular proposal that's in front of us, is that we have to fix the parking up there.
I think we all agree.
Yeah, we've been working on it. So I don't want that. That's why the article's there. I'm not saying it's going to go forward, might not even get out of committee,
No,
so
I
to speak.
appreciate what you said, but my understanding when that committee was formed, and when Tom Flaherty presented that was more for how do you extend the parking within pipe stave. That was the discussion. Then I found out on Tuesday, thank you, Angus, for sending it to me, Tuesday before that Monday meeting, that it was potentially the Upper Dunn. Then I went and sat with Angus on Friday before that meeting and went through and showed him what we were trying to do. So I understand what everyone's trying to do. I just wanted to share with you the feedback.
I think that was the priority of the Park and Rec. I mean, I was a huge advocate at that meeting that we don't have tunnel vision, and that we have potentially look at all aspects, including recycling area, including other aspects on that site, and including Dunn. And I think Joe was the advocate of saying, no, we should just be looking at, don't go into Dunn. But it was talked about, and I think the charge of that committee was to look at that whole area,
So I
just
think-
not Pipes Dave.
I think the question before us tonight now, whether it's now or later, is how do we have a more coordinated effort so we're not doing this in two silos? How do we bring this together in a way that makes sense? So, you know, let's talk about solutions. Is there a way we could maybe reach a compromise between the two groups? I don't know.
I think Park and Rec has already made a compromise in the sense that they understand the need for parking, and they would make that, if this all goes, if it gets funded and all goes forward, they would make that a priority, and understanding that parking would be a priority up there for the existing fields, and of course, the new stuff that might be happening. So
That's
maybe,
correct,
hold on, maybe, I was told we did a pretty good job, because you were on that committee, of looking at all aspects. Maybe we need to, with some information that Mr. McGrath.
Well, Mr. Bill can comment on the soundness of the area, like the recycling area, some parking.
But I don't want to get into that,
Yeah,
I'm not getting in that
specific.
discussion tonight.
You're asking questions.
No, but I'm saying that maybe we may go revisit all those areas
Well,
again.
we kind of did check, we evaluate, we didn't ignore any of the possibilities, and the two, this was the best one that the
Yes.
committee felt.
Okay, yes, agreed.
We didn't have
So
tunnel
how
vision
did-
and only look at one solution.
So I think the question is, yes to what you just said. So how do you bring this together so that we don't build, I don't know what the parking proposal is, it's 100 cars or whatever the number is, and then Park and Rec does their conceptual design and says that, well, they really need 150, or, and I don't know what the numbers are, or if they put the parking area in and like, oh, we wanted the snack shack here, like, you gotta do it as one, so.
I don't disagree.
So how do
I think
we-
it's a question of timing, and.
Well, exactly.
So how do we-
People were considering the parking problem exists today, and the overall conceptual project
Agreed.
could be a multi-year project.
So how do
I
we-
guess that's the.
How do we bring
how
it
do we
together?
bring that
How do we
together?
bring it together?
I think John wants to talk.
Okay.
John? We're not having a big, long conversation about this tonight. I don't.
You don't want to solve it?
We're not solving this. We're not solving this tonight, but we can talk. We've been trying to solve this since having a selectman. I don't think so.
Town meeting's going to vote on it, we're not.
I would like to make a suggestion as perhaps a solution to the rhetorical question that several of you have asked, and maybe others have elsewhere that I haven't been in meetings of. But if the 51,000 passes at town meeting, the very beginning footwork that would have to be done also for the competing proposal of environmental and wetlands and the various things whoever you are needs to do would be already underway. And the scope of what Parks and Rec plans doesn't at all preempt stage construction. So the very first priority, once they got their preliminary stuff done, which is going to be in a time frame they already understand, then you do that thing. But you're doing it under the auspices of a big game plan with land management and planning for a coherent total space. You're not having a separate party coming in. I don't find that
Yeah.
sensible.
So, when you say how can we work together, Mr. McGrath's point is taken well, in the sense that if we had two competing, and first of all, we're not competing against anything. We're all just trying to make the area better, you know what I mean? So I don't want to stop trying to pit one against the other, because I don't think that, I see you, Tom, you'll be next. I don't think that helps. But if I think the way to work would be then we step back from our proposal, right? And see, because that money would be allocated if it's passes in October, and then what the engineering, the wetlands delineation, everything that we would have to do anyways to build that parking lot would be happening anyway. I think to the point of Mr. McGrath just meant. So it would be, it would be, you know what I mean? It would be going on anyway, and then to see if it works, because.
The other point.
And then try to squeeze more parking out of Pipestave and try to reconfigure it up there, because if this gets funded, goes to town meeting, that we're not seeing anything up there for 2, 3, 4
So,
years.
Glenn, I think the question, though, is the funding question. So the standalone, let's say the Park and Rec proposal does not pass. So the standalone, ideally should be funded from CPA, not from free cash. Because CPA money, we've already been taxed. Free cash is really future taxes. So
Tom, you need to use the microphone, please.
I think we should change that.
We can't. Oh, we have time, no.
Tom Flaherty, I'm the chairman of the Park and Rec, and in an odd position. Obviously, I favor strongly the work that Bill has done with the Dunn property project. At the same time, I had been working with my own ideas, living the parking at Pipestave for years, and came to the selectmen the same night we came to the selectmen. So there were two proposals that night, not just the Park and Rec Dunn, but the Park and Rec Pipestave. And I think it's very important to point out that nobody's competing. Nobody's competing with anybody. The word redundant, let me back up for a moment. The two proposals went to the CPC. They were apples and oranges. One said build parking, the other said money for a plan. The idea, I'm sure that if we had money for a plan, I'm sure that if we were accepted from the committee, that we could build the parking that Gary proposed, we would be working with the conceptual plan engineering people. It wouldn't be two silos. I can't see that at all. And Woody Cammett, very knowledgeable of our fields, our town, and he would do the right thing. And finally, just interestingly to me, there was worry from the CPC about confusion. And if you look at the two proposals that went to the CPC, one said, we'd like money to build a parking lot. The other said, we'd like money for a major plan to study what we're doing.
To show the town what we're going to.
Exactly, yeah.
If I can, since I was at that meeting, I think to answer what the confusion was.
I don't think you need to. Thank you for saying that. And I'd like to say one more item. And this is the humorous part. The Pipestave Committee voted my proposal down. It didn't even get seconded. And my proposal was a much more modest plan for Pipestave parking. So I've been in the middle of all aspects of this, and at no time were we competing.
Mhm. So is it fair to say that the parking proposal that is that was before the CPC would have conflict with the preliminary plans that you have for the Dunfield? Because I've heard tonight that, well, you want there's a parking lot that's proposed over there, but we wanted a snack shack in that area and something like that. I've heard that tonight. Is that correct? So.
That's correct.
Yeah, so, okay. So that might be where the competition portion of it comes in, and that's why I was trying to say, I don't want to start pitting people against people. I wanted to do it right. So I think we all understand. So is there anybody else here to speak? Wendy?
Hi, my name is Wendy Willis. I'm a resident of town, and I'm also representing a large group of individuals that are opposed to this. So I just have some housekeeping questions as I educate myself on the process. What is Greenbelt's role in the Mullen property?
Mullen?
No, I was involved in that years ago. Dunfield.
None.
Is that,
None.
So they have none.
None.
So no trail
Well,
access?
None. So let me give you, so that was purchased in 2012, April 29th, at town meeting, in 2002, for $3.5 million. Most, that is general use, we can do anything we want on it.
Correct.
The discussion on town meeting floor was that that's a great site for an elementary school.
Wellfields. I was at that meeting. I
Yep,
recall.
yep, yep.
Yes.
It was always going to be, that was the discussion, like,
Understood. It wasn't earmarked purely for open space. I
no,
understand.
exactly.
I think myself and my crew just have a problem with the scope of this project. It feels quite large for our community.
But one thing, the engineering, this is just for an engineering plan to find out what the scope is. The real scope is after this, so then you have a good understanding.
I understand.
There is no scope currently, so I think
Yeah.
that's what.
I see, there's no plan,
Yeah.
trust me, I've studied it in depth. Where were the census figures drawn from? Current figures, projected figures, where did those come from?
Not sure.
Wendy, what do you mean by census figures?
So we're talking about census figures of our town and the needs. Where did those census figures come from?
What we looked at is, we basically got the data from the West Newbury Youth Leagues. This was all, you mean the usage of the fields and the participants?
No, I'm talking about the survey that was sent out. and
That
the
survey was
census-
2010, Tom?
Oh, boy,
Yeah,
okay.
that
so
was
that's very
2010. That survey was, I think it was 2010, right, Tom?
old.
it
Okay,
was
so
done?
we're
Yeah.
looking at a pretty old survey. No wonder why nobody remembered
Mhm.
it.
But-
You know, we
but
were
I
all just
think-
like, what survey?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
thank you,
Okay,
Wendy.
very good.
But,
And then,
Wendy, I would like to make
oh,
one
certainly,
comment.
sorry.
Oh, hold on, yeah.
I'm sorry. The comment I want to make is, not only is the survey important, but I think the importance of the participants that we have and all those things. We have 1 to 6, we have middle school, and we have high school. We have it broken down into bachelor field, and I'll be happy to sit with you.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah,
Thank you.
let's have a cup of coffee, and look at, by the way, I'm happy with what you're doing. I'm fine, okay? I have no issue. I
just-
have no issue with what you're
I'm
doing.
not a tree hugger, I just want to see a useful,
It's okay.
intelligent use of that.
But we'll have a
Okay.
cup of coffee. and
I
so-
want to get, yeah,
But-
I want to get, hold on, time out, Bill.
Yeah.
Listen, everything needs to go through me. I don't want this to get too crazy. You just
I'll
finish
tell you
up
what, I'll
quick.
fill you in.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
don't,
Thank
I don't
you,
want
Bill.
this
I
to,
appreciate
okay.
that.
Why don't you finish, Wendy?
Thank you, I appreciate that. So, do we have any future use, because we talked about 850 to 950 in that time frame of the survey, the youth sports, I love my thing back there. So that's our current use, we've gone up 100 participants in the last,
All these questions probably would be answered better during that coffee time, because
Okay,
I
fair
don't
enough.
have, I'm not trying to be difficult.
No, and that's
If you
fine.
give me a list, I can find them all out for you and get
Yep,
back to you.
yep,
But I
I'm
think it
gonna
might be
probably
better
have a
to,
good
you sit down with the Park and Rec, and I think they'll have all those answers pretty readily
Okay,
for you.
And that goes to who determined the viability of each location, because it seemed like there were a lot of X's on locations that might have had value, like the Mullen for the senior center and some
Yeah.
fields. So that's
Mhm.
again a Park and Rec. Okay, so we'll definitely have a conversation.
Do you have any questions, like, on the process? Okay.
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 Has the committee fully explored adding fields to any other of our Pentucket communities? Merrimack or Groveland? Why is West Newbury carrying the burden of all this?
So Wendy, the fields, the pipe stay fields are currently used by Pawtucket Regional School District, West Newbury Youth League, PYSA, which is Pawtucket Youth Soccer Association, and PYL, which is Pawtucket Youth Lacrosse. So the West Newbury Youth League uses only fields here, town fields, West Newbury fields. They don't
Sure.
go over, they'll practice in other Groveland and Merrimack fields.
But we did. I had children that just graduated and
Well,
they played in.
Well, playing in other towns, sure,
Okay.
but practices during the night. So the biggest utilization of these fields is what we call the late slot, so 5:30 to dusk. Because that's when, the earlier slot is used by the high school right after school, when
Sure.
all the parent volunteer coaches are still at their day jobs, right? So that's the early slot. The latest slot is the 5:30 to dusk, which is when all the parent volunteer coaches come home. That's the full throttle, 100% utilization time.
John,
And
what
that's,
time would you say that ends at, like 6:30?
it varies as dusk changes, Wendy.
Okay, yep.
So we
it does.
shrink, we bring the
Fair
time
enough.
to dusk, because
Okay.
as,
This might, yeah, but this might, again, might be the coffee thing. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but this is, I'm not trying to be difficult, I mean, in a sense, but,
No,
you know what I mean?
I feel really important that it's spoken in a public forum, because I think that there is a large group of us that just don't really have a great understanding of what's going on. So now all of a sudden, it's been brought to life, and we're all trying to get a little bit more educated on it. And I don't want to be this person that's turning into, I'm going to report it on Facebook. I feel like it should be
Okay.
part of a public forum.
1 second. Would you are you guys willing to make that presentation that you made towards us at a selectmen's meeting or on your website before, hold on for 1 second, it's on your website before, obviously, fall town meeting? It
Yeah.
seems like these meetings happen, we publish them, and then all of a sudden, when it starts getting more popular, everybody comes in and they're a little bit behind the 8 ball just because.
We don't know, right.
Exactly, we're all doing our own.
Yes, I don't pay attention.
We're all doing our own life. So with that, I think that might be in that.
I concur.
And we can do it in
I
a
agree.
public forum so
Right.
everybody knows and we
I
can
think
publish
that's
it.
brilliant, because
so
a
let me
lot of
tell
my
you-
questions are, have we looked at lights? Have we looked at rotating schedules?
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't feel like I have enough information to get behind
You
this.
can't put, just so
or
you know, you can't put
compromise.
lights, I'll answer that, you can't put lights on pipes, Dave, because of the conservation restriction that we have.
But I just want to let you know, Wendy and Glenn and there, so we're putting a flyer together that will go to all residents.
Mm-hmm.
On our website, we
Who
have
pays
free.
for that?
What?
Who pays for that?
The flyer, Park and
The
Rec?
flyer.
Yep,
Yeah, Parks and Rec.
So Park and Rec's funding comes from the town?
correct?
So the
Yep.
Well,
town?
we got
okay.
we got that approved, right? Last November, is that still useful?
The $1,000
Yeah,
allocation,
yeah.
as far as I know,
Correct.
I don't know, yeah. but
Park and Rec has a line item in the budget
Yeah.
and they come.
I just want to understand.
No, it's bulk mail. And then we have a frequently asked questions that we started putting together. We're up to about 5, and so it gets pretty dense. That will go up on the website by the end of next week. The application for funding, I'll send that over to you, Wendy. That will go up on our website next week as well. I think there's the PowerPoint, we'll put another PowerPoint, one that has a little bit more detail, because Jack did a lot of data analysis and realized that these fields are now over 100% utilization today on all the different fields, and that will go up on our website. So we're going to be putting a lot of things on the website and then getting a public awareness, and then if it does pass, there'll be plenty of public meetings for which residents can make comments.
May I make a suggestion? Because
Yeah, go ahead.
I've spoken to probably
Yeah.
about 50 people that all are vehemently opposed to this. So I feel like instead of having a standoff where, you've got the people that want to preserve it exactly the way it is and those that want to turn it into something that Wellesley would be happy to have, has Park and Rec looked at any level of compromise, like an additional field and an additional parking lot? Because I can tell you right now, we already have a dog park. It's called Pipes Dave and Mill Pond. We don't need paddle courts and tennis courts. We already have tennis courts behind the middle.
So, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Well,
this
I
is an
understand, but I
enormous
want
project.
1 second, Mr. McGrath. Okay. Yes, they have, but it's probably, this isn't actually you want to have it in a public forum, go to their next.
Have it in a public forum.
Go to their next meeting, it's a public forum, and ask them these questions. This is starting to get kind of badgering, and
I'm
I have.
not badgering,
No,
Glenn.
I know,
I'm asking
but.
questions 'cause I'm
But
just
I
trying to
understand,
get
and
up
I
to
don't
speed
want it
on
to be
it.
like that, and I have to be the one that has to kind of police this, and then I look like the bad guy, and I don't want to be that. I understand your concern, and I'm telling you right now, they're all valid, and this happens every single time when we have a major project coming into town. And then all of a sudden, when it gets to almost the end, everybody go, why weren't we notified? And we've been.
Everyone says, no one told us.
Yeah, and we had 17 public meetings, we put
Understood.
it
And I think it's the
everywhere,
nature
so.
of people just busy
So
lives.
I'm trying to make it like this, so let's all try to get,
I agree. So when is the next
let's
Park
all
and
try to
Rec
get,
meeting?
It's September 11th, but I'll be also, Wendy, if you're interested, I'm also hitting the road with Jack and Tom. We're going to open space. We have a meeting with open space,
When's that?
September 12th. We have a meeting with the West Newbury Youth Leagues on September
I know.
19th. I just want to let you know this.
Yeah. Okay, hold on.
So my point is, if you want your team, whoever you have, your group, if you want us to come talk to you, we'll be happy to.
I
No
respect
issues.
that. Thank you.
And that'd be fine.
That answers
And
all
I'm
my
fine with
questions.
that.
Thank you for your time.
But before we have that, I'll give you the information
I
and talk to you.
appreciate that. Thank
Yeah.
you all.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yep.
I would like to emphasize, Miss, before you leave.
Oh, it's Wendy Willis. I'm sorry.
Yeah. One point I want to make, and I've had this conversation with Bill, and he's in total agreement. The chairman said toward the end of the process, but this is toward the end of the process of whether to allocate engineering funding to look at this in detail. So I just want everybody to understand.
It's
there's
not to build it.
There's not a construction project that is.
No, I understand.
So, and that's, I've.
Well, that's what I tried to refrain it early on by saying this is just an application. I want everybody to understand, to be able to engineer what it's going to look like. Then you can see what they're going to do, because that engineering might say, no, you have wetlands here, you have this, you have this, you have this, you can't do what you really want to do. So that's when, but you had a lot of good questions about the reasons why they even wanted to do this. So it'd be probably good for you get that information. Okay, anything else, guys? So I guess the only thing out of this conversation is that you want to talk about, he looked at you and is it still about the parking article? Is that the only thing you guys?
Well, I don't know if you wanted to talk solutions or no, or.
Based on, the discussion tonight, and I'm listening to John McGrath with the extended parking, I know this is, I'm really feeling that we really should look at this whole, if it does pass, we need to really look at it as a one big plan. And my only concern is, if we do put the parking up at the Upper Dunn property, will it be correct? Will it have the right access roads? We're gonna have to rebuild it? Is the $106,000 enough? And I have to be honest, I don't know. And as I mentioned, I think Chase Street is narrow. Someone alluded to me, I drove up and down a bunch of times. I don't know if you can have an access thing in and out of Chase, so the only thing you're gonna be able to do is come in through Pipe Stave and Upper Dunn. And then where we had thought where the fields may be, they may have to be somewhere else. So I just think the best thing to do is do the plan first with the prioritization that we go ahead and get that parking implemented as fast as we can.
Okay.
If everything passes. That would
Thank
be
you.
my recommendation.
Is there any new information? Mr. McGrath?
I'm not on social media, but I catch what is going on. And this is the worst kind of situation where we have ad hoc committees, in this case, in opposition with some goals, maybe not totally, with a dedicated elected official committee with its own budget, its own property ownership in town, and mandates to care for stuff. And the other thing I want to talk about just for a moment is citizenship. Citizenship means participating. Participating means coming informed, having backgrounded the information so you can speak coherently and don't have to grill people. We see it at town meeting, and we see, I'm going to finish, and we see it now. So we need to come informed. There's no absence of public information, either on paper, if you don't have electronic data, or on electronic data, to have familiarized yourself with all of this. So I've been guilty of it when I sit there, but I've slightly, very gently chide the board tonight that you allowed slightly the worst kind of thing that we see, and that's the grilling to make a point. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Is there anybody here for any thing in particular? Obviously, the warrant articles, I guess, is that what everybody else is hanging around for? Do you want to start this, Angus? Want me to do, what do you want to do?
So the warrant closes tonight, so what you have before you is a memo that summarizes both the warrant articles that have been specifically proposed, a couple of additional warrant articles that the board may wish to sponsor itself coming out of the community compact reports, and an additional 4 articles that I'm bringing forward for the board to consider. So you have backup material in your packet for each of these items. I would suggest we take them one at a time.
Yep, do these include the 2 that we got today from the planning board?
Yes. Yes.
I
Okay.
haven't had a chance to review those.
Nor have I. They just came in this afternoon.
They just came in today.
Yeah, so how are these on here?
They're referenced in here because I
They're
knew they were
referenced.
You kind of knew they were coming in?
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, we just got them today, but I know the planning board has had multiple work sessions on both of them.
Okay,
and-
let's start from 1.
All right. So the first is a request from the Board of Health for $30,000.
Hold on for 1 second. I kind of like to know why we're doing this. So this is the first go-around? We're going to review them tonight? We're not saying yes or no, they're going to be on? What are we doing, gentlemen? What was your...
With the warrant closing, I had expected that you would say it's
Yes or
either
no?
in or not. Until you sign
We've
the
never
warrant-
done that.
Until you sign the warrant, it's not final, and obviously you don't have you don't have articles in front of you. So there's, probably
So is there
nearly a
anything
month between now and signing the warrant.
Is there anything we would take off? Is there any
Okay.
amounts that we would change? Is there anything?
Okay. So again, we're going to go through them one
Yep.
at a time, and we're going to vote if we should take them off tonight. That's what you're saying?
Or change them, or just have a discussion? I don't know. Maybe add, I don't know.
Well, we can't add, they were closed.
One thing.
Because if you start adding, then somebody will have something tomorrow. Okay, Warren, I guess why don't we start?
All right, the first one on the list is the Board of Health request for additional funds in the expenses line to fund installation of additional monitoring devices and additional frequency of testing for post-closure of the steel landfill. And I can summarize that. We do have representation from the Board of Health, but long story short, there was there's a non-compliance notice from DEP that hinges around both the timeliness of providing information to DEP on the post-closure testing. That's been resolved since that point. There was a backlog of reports that had been done and had not been provided. Those have all since been provided to DEP. So right now what's going on is the Board of Health or the Health Department's working with DEP to arrive at a DEP-approved post-closure monitoring plan, which will establish certain frequencies of testing of monitoring wells, gas vents, and neighbors' wells, and so forth. So the budget figure that's been put forward is based on I think a sound estimate. It's a little bit conservative. The actual number we think is probably more like 24,000 to 25,000, but we're not going to know for some time ahead what DEP is going to approve. So the number that's in here builds in some conservatism in case, for instance, there's got to be additional testing of, for instance, neighbors' wells.
So all this backup is dated February 21st. You weren't here, so this is not a question to you, but why was this not on the Springtown meeting?
And are we under any penalties? Because the material that I read, and if I'm wrong, please tell me I'm wrong, was that it was dated February 21st, and that we had to comply or do something within 10 days. So
My understanding, and Paul can elaborate, is that the Health did provide a response to DEP setting out certain frequencies of testing. DEP found that some of the frequencies that were proposed were not to their satisfaction, so right now that process is ongoing of getting to how frequently certain testing has to take place, and then that obviously translates to dollars.
always does. Paul, did you want to speak to Joe's question, please?
What was your question, Joe?
Could you use the microphone, please?
All the material is dated February 21st, so, like,
What material you're referring to is dated February
I
21st?
think from the state.
this.
The letter of noncompliance, yes, that was, as you recall, we had an issue last year with the, one of the wells, 1,4-dioxane, and that triggered, that well, monitor well number 5 that had a high level of 1,4-dioxane
And
triggered
these are
that noncompliance.
these are testing wells.
Testing wells, correct. And
I
that's
just
what
want
triggered-
people to understand, if they're listening, they might think they're drinking water wells.
That's
These are
what triggered
testing
the,
wells.
non-compliance letter. So that's all been resolved in order, in that letter, we had to come up with a post-closure monitoring plan. And we were working with the DEP to get that resolved, and then part of the post-closure monitoring plan, we had to test it again in June, get those results to the DEP. Agnes and I did have a conference call with the DEP last Friday. There's no fines associated with the non-compliance. We just gotta get the post-closure monitoring plan submitted. We've already submitted it once. They wanted some changes. And we're revising that plan, getting it back to DEP, and then we should have a final approval of the post-closure monitoring plan prior to town meeting, when we can adjust that number, as Angus said, lower, once we know what they really want for the frequency. The main thing is what we're gonna need for frequency of the gas monitor wells, the deep water wells in the landfill, and then the neighbors' wells that we tested last January.
And then, so you're saying when they get back to you, then we could start putting this in your annual budget?
Correct.
Because you don't know what it's going to be.
Correct. In that, even though it's in the annual budget in the future, it could change if we get a high level of something during the normal testing procedures. That could, if something comes, goes higher, then we may need to test more frequently, like we had to come.
Which
to
would
reserve
happen
fund
before, and you
transfer.
guys had to go get a reserve fund transfer.
Correct.
That adequately answer it? Okay.
That's the answer.
Okay. Anything else? You want to stay up for the recycling portion? Is that the next one?
And I'm gonna let the board members take care of that.
Okay, so, well, we might not even have any questions on that, so, okay, so number one, we're keeping it on? We have no choice,
No
right?
choice.
Okay.
And number 2 is funding for this. Funding source for this.
So that's, we're doing this all tonight? Is it funding?
No,
source
but I mean,
and
that's
everything?
gonna come up pretty quick. Just
Okay,
throwing
so
it out.
what do you want to do? I want to stay
I
on
don't-
one schedule. I want to stay on one thing. I don't care what we do, but that's why I try to, in the beginning, say, hey, what are we trying to accomplish by going through these tonight? Generally, we look through them.
Then we have to do it next time.
No, it's fine. So is that what you want to do? We're going to keep it on, and we're going to do funding source. So what's the proposed funding source?
I don't have one.
Angus? What was the proposed funding source from the?
I would think it would be operating budget based on the rationale that was talked about last time of recycling costs, because this is expected to become a recurring budget.
You're on the
Still on the
landfill.
He's on number
Okay.
one, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we have enough,
We don't know.
we don't know.
money?
We don't know.
I understand that. I wanted to finish it for everybody else. You guys knew what the next word was going to be.
Levy capacity without exceeding 2.5, is that your question?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know yet.
Okay, so,
I think we'll probably know by the next meeting.
yep. So to get to this again, so we're not wasting my time and everybody else's time, we want this to be levy capacity, correct? We want this to be, and we'll see if we have enough levy capacity, and if it's not, then what's the source? Free cash?
Well, then we've got to make a decision. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to do an override. I certainly would not. So do we want to balance the budget in some other way? I think we,
No, I would think this was an
Unforeseen
in-
expense.
forthcoming in the next fiscal year, it has to be on the budget.
okay, so the
In
question,
this particular budget, I have absolutely no problem with it being a free cash item.
why?
Because we had absolutely no anticipation that we were gonna have to do this. Okay, you asked my opinion.
Yeah, no, I did. That's fine. Well, I would agree with what Angus said. It's an operating item.
Okay, so you'd rather have an override to?
No,
that?
no.
Okay, so what's your solution then?
My point,
Is
To
we
cut
we
something?
need to know the numbers. That's my solution.
Well, that's a cop-out.
No, it's not. If we're within 2.5, we don't have a problem.
that's his point, so that's what I was gonna get to.
That's
What
what I'm
seems
trying to
we're
say.
just turning our wheels, that's what I was gonna get. So, let's see, with this one, if we can stay within 2.5, it'll be 2.5. If not, it's gonna have to be free cash.
Or we have to cut something.
Why do you keep on making this difficult? You just said, he asked you that, and you said no.
I didn't, to cut something?
So you would like to cut something?
No, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Let's just move on. Till we find
Okay,
out
so
the numbers, let's just move on.
Listen, I'm not doing the funding source anymore tonight, okay? Because we're gonna do this every single time, okay? So why don't we come back and ask Angus, no matter whatever we come back in here, if he could give us recommendations on funding source within the purview of, we don't wanna go over 2.5%.
Got it.
Okay? And then, is that okay? Rather than talk about funding source tonight?
That's fine.
Thank you. Number 2. Angus?
Number 2 is also a Board of Health article. This is to do with the additional recycling costs resulting from a dramatic change in the recycling market. We have representation from the Board of Health. I know the selectmen reviewed this fairly extensively, and it's been before the Finance Committee as well. Not to suggest they've taken a position, they have not, but I think the rationale for the proposal has been provided before. I could summarize that now if anybody's interested.
If you could give us a brief summary, like a sentence,
Yeah.
and then if we have any questions, we could ask the members of the Board of Health.
China was the dominant consumer of recycled, post-consumer recycled goods. They instituted a new policy. Basically, they don't take it anymore, and there's no market for it. So it's affecting the entire U.S. Recycling market very dramatically. And recycling, which at one point, especially in larger municipalities, was a source of revenue, has quickly, almost overnight, become a cost driver. So a lot of people are struggling with this.
Okay, so you anticipate this is going to be an ongoing cost, so again, you're going to see if we can fit this under the levy capacity of 2.5%, and ongoing, the Board of Health is going to have this in their budget.
That's right.
Okay, we want to keep this on? You have any questions of the Board of Health?
Certainly do. So the Board of Health stated that,
You want to have them come up?
yeah,
We figured if you're going to make you stay here until 5 minutes to 9, we're going to at least ask you a couple of questions, I guess.
May as well.
right. So in the article request, it states that the cost is currently at $94.87 a ton. It also states that this is versus just $8 last year, so quite a dramatic increase. So you would presume last year's amount is in the budget already, so it's a net increase of $86.87. Also stated an average of 500 tons is processed per fiscal year. So this article is going to go before town meeting at the end of October, so we'll have 2/3 of fiscal year left, so that would be 333 tons times $86.87 equals $28,954, and the request is for $50,000.
I'll start with that one myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure what you're saying. Last year was 8 budgeted, and this year it's 93.
That's what your request said.
No, last year Mello was paying 8, and now he's paying 93. There's no budget at all for the 8 or the 93.
In the Board of Health budget. You didn't budget $8 in your budget?
Mr. Mello has been paying for our recycling. No,
Okay.
that's a period.
Okay.
No, I'm letting you know.
He's been
That's a-
taking, Mello's been taking the, he
Okay.
hasn't come back to the Board of Health. They've been taking the increase, the hit. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Mello has, not us.
The hit to $94, but we never paid 2 years ago. Okay, fine.
0. Mr. Mello's been paying for it.
That's fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Any other questions?
Well, yeah, the timing.
Do you want to ask the
Well,
time?
we I believe, well, I'll start. Mr. Mello came in June and July, he came in a couple of times, sat down, negotiated a little bit with our contract, and when it finally got to 93, he finally asked us for some help. So what we did negotiate with him, as of the beginning of the fiscal year, we would start paying him for his tonnage,
So you're saying to back pay him?
starting July 1. Oh, wait, yeah, July 1, I'm sorry.
So yes, so the answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay. Can we do that?
So you can take, so basically, what you're asking, can you do that is, take this year's fiscal money and pay last year's fiscal bill?
No, it's this
no,
year.
no.
It's this year.
No.
It's for services already, can you?
Rendered.
Yes, that's the question.
And yes, to the
As
answer.
long as they were rendered in this fiscal year.
And the answer is, I asked Mr. McCarron about that, and absolutely, we're trying to negotiate in good faith our contract, is what we're doing.
Yep.
Do we really have the resources? No, I guess we're hoping that, maybe more than hoping that we're gonna get the money to reimburse.
Oh, no.
Right.
I don't think that was the question. I
Oh,
think the
what?
question was just legally if we can do it or not.
Yes,
He was
Mr. McCarron,
wondering if you can go back to June 30th.
Well, you can go back to services. It's all about the fiscal year, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Because
It-
somebody
it
would
was-
give us, I mean, if they put a roof on and they did it in July and then they got us to bill in end of August, we'd be paying in August for something that happened in July. It would be the same thing.
am I
It's
correct
going
in saying
back
that
on-
fiscal year starts July 1?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
we are paying him from July 1 forward, not from,
Correct.
It's this fiscal year.
correct,
July 1.
forward.
Yep. My question was only to pay more for something that we already paid for, that's all.
I wish we had paid for it.
Yeah,
He got
so
nervous.
legally, can we do that? That's the question.
I did speak with Mike, and he said that was fine. He agreed that by agreeing to do that, the Board of Health has created a situation where if the additional funding does not come through, that would be a real problem, because the money would run out before the end of June.
So
They would
let me make sure, so you agreed to do this? In other words, like you signed a contract with them?
We have not signed, we have not.
It's in the context of the
Negotiation of the contract.
Okay.
So I believe what I take your proposal is basically you're negotiating in good faith with the vendor.
Correct.
And you're bringing forward funding to honor what you would like to do, which is to bring it to July 1st.
That is correct.
But at this point, no dollars have been paid.
As
for
of
it.
right now, no dollars have
So
actually
that's-
been exchanged. We're waiting for Mr. Mello to get us his July bill, because it comes out late.
And I think this is a bit relevant to, Joe, to your earlier point, in terms of how the contract is structured. It was a fixed fee contract set up in 2014 between Mello and the Board of Health, and it had a fixed fee for each of the 6 fiscal years of the contract that went up somewhat each year.
2 to 3% annually.
Right, but it did not specifically break down the costs of picking up the trash versus the recycling. It was kind of embedded in that. And so,
Okay, so it is,
It was all one.
All one thing.
Yes.
so presumably at the time he was pricing that, he was, at that point, I believe, receiving some revenue for the recycling he was picking up.
Enough to
That's correct.
maybe offset the trucking.
Right, and
It's
so,
minimal, believe me.
so as the situation has worsened to the point where the prices, as you see them are now, it's to the point where that price that he had agreed to 4 or 5 years ago is no longer sustainable for him.
And I just want to, Mr. Mello would never do this to us.
Can you talk into the
Sorry
microphone,
about
please?
that. Mr. Mello would never do this to us. But at the end of the day, if it was X, Y, and Z of the company, they legitimately could say, listen, we don't get paid, we're not picking it up. Because the simple reason is, we only pay them for their hauling services, not their tip, we call it a tipping fee, we pay for the actual place. So in the whole year process, he's been picking up tens of thousands of dollars of
Well, actually, I don't
our
think
recycling.
that's true, because we pay for the tipping for the trash.
Correct.
In the contract, he's already told us how much it's gonna cost for the recycling. So they
For
would still,
hauling.
No, it's a
For
single
hauling.
price for the entire service.
Right.
I understand, but then we get a bill from Wheelabrator for the
Yep.
tipping fee. Angus?
Correct.
For the tip, we get a separate bill from Wheelabrator for the tipping fee on the trash. So actually, no, he'd still, he would still have to pick up the recycling and pick up the trash, right? For the length of the contract, and he would have to lose money, but we're saying, hey, we're gonna be good faith. He would have to do that, or he would have to breach the contract. No, he would.
I'm listening, I'm thinking about it, because I think that go under unforeseen circumstances.
No. We're just talking about contract law. You're saying that somebody would just stop picking it up because they wouldn't have to because they're not getting paid. I'm saying that that can't happen unless he breaches the contract. And we understand they're a good partner with us, and we want to have good faith. So if we just wanted to honor the contract, he'd still, under the contract, would have to pick up our recycling and pick up our trash, and then we would pay a separate tipping fee. He could say, I'm not doing it anymore, and then breach the contract, and then we would have to sue him and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, that's exactly right. He could just say,
I'm
"Heck,
sorry,
I'm not doing it."
Yeah, then we would have to sue him, and he'd have to say, no, you have to breach your contract, but we don't want all that to happen. So we want to try to make it good.
Right.
Because they're good to us. So, that's it. Any other questions? But again, we knew this ahead of time. Why wasn't it in the budget already?
Because we were caught blindsided. We didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
We mentioned it to the finance committee in, what would it be, December, January, when we went there? That we saw. When was it?
February 21st.
February 21st. We mentioned it to the finance. And Mr. Archibald came to one of our meetings, and we mentioned it to Mr. Archibald.
February 13th.
Yeah, no, but that has nothing to do with us. You guys do your own budget. We don't do your budget. You know what I mean?
Until Jason saw it hit $40 a ton, he started to get nervous.
Okay, gotcha.
That's the,
He talked about
Right.
it, but it wasn't at the crisis level at that point.
Right.
It really changed in the matter
Overnight?
of like 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay. You got all your questions answered? Okay. The way we're going, did everybody bring their sleeping bags?
No, I'm ready to go home.
Because we're only done with 2. Okay, let's. Yeah, okay, let's go. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Number 3, the request for $4,000 for architectural services to draw costs on a proposed annex design, sponsored by the Community Center Committee.
I don't know what they're doing, but at some point, I think they're going to come in, or they want to come in October, so I would say, let the finance committee do their vetting, and they're going to talk to us anyway. So.
Proposed funding for 51 from the Community Preservation Committee, number 4. Any questions about that? I think we've.
I don't know what this is about.
I think yeah. Okay, and then, Angus, this 5 and 6 are the ones from the ones from the planning board that you kind of had a heads up about?
That's right.
We should keep those on at this point, obviously, and you.
I met with the planner and with the chair last week, and they described that both of these are brought forward in specific response to concerns that have been raised at prior town meetings regarding both of these bylaws. I believe both are going to be well received.
Yep.
Okay.
And as you know, the planning board will have its own hearing under zoning law.
Yep.
Okay, and then, this is all the OPEB stuff?
These are things that, when the DLS came in, these were kind of just housekeeping things that they suggested that we should do. And so when we had that meeting.
Is this going to make you happy?
No, it's not going to make me happy.
It'll
What,
make me happy too.
You want to do these?
what,
Yeah.
Okay,
what
let's
we-
just keep them on
yeah,
then.
can I just explain the 30
Yep.
seconds? So what we thought was, we could have a pretty full Springtown meeting, so let's, and this is not that big. Let's
These
get,
are the easier ones.
Yeah, I understand.
so let's get the housekeeping out of the way.
Okay, and then, 12?
But having said that, can I ask
Oh,
Bill about
sure.
how he feels about number 9?
Authorized prudent investor rule.
There was another option to have a board of trustees.
Oh, yeah, at the time, the investment policy committee was like vetted and they, at the time, did not want to be a board of trustees.
They did not want.
They did
No, but
not, they did.
But you could have a separate
They
one.
could be somebody else.
Could be
I'm
us.
just
They could-
wondering
they-
if
they- yes,
are
yes.
we happy with with having one person as the sole decision maker, you might say, on that.
The fund.
I don't know. I'm not really.
I'm not, that's why I brought
I
it up.
agree with you.
Okay.
I think it could work very well if the expectations, you know, if you have expectations, or finance committee or the investment committee, whomever, wants to be fully in the loop on that, that can certainly happen with that position. And I mean, certainly if you want to establish a separate board of trustees, I would have no objection to that. But I think the advantage of having a single person is they can make a decision without posting a meeting and taking minutes. It's just the overhead of an additional group. That's really my only.
And if the treasurer works in conjunction with the investment committee, who they're pretty good.
Yep.
They're industry professionals. So I think they need to establish that relationship, which I don't think they've done that.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and I don't believe that committee's met since the new treasurer took over that
Nope.
position, so that's something.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
12,
I think it's a point, Archie, I think it's a point well taken.
no, so do I.
Okay.
And then if we go with the single person, I'd like to have a discussion
Who it is.
of who that is.
Does it
because-
have to be the treasurer?
That's how this is written, but that's how the
Because
advisory.
That's a question. Does it have to be the treasurer? Could it be the town manager? I'd feel a lot better.
Yes. You know what I mean by that? I would rather, because depending on who it needs to be or what it needs to be, I might go with the board.
Yes, this was.
You know what I mean?
This was just a recommendation of the DLS. It's not a.
They can be anybody. So can you get that answer for us for next
Yeah.
time?
How about, and I don't know how the procedure has worked here, but would it be adequate to basically rewrite this, that it would be either? We basically parrot the language here, and then before you actually sign the warrant, which is say 3 or 4 weeks from now.
Oh, yes,
would then
yes,
make the
yes.
decision.
Then we
Yeah,
make the
yeah,
decision
yeah.
at that final cutoff
Yep.
day.
Yeah.
You confused me.
So
Basically, that'll give us about a month
No,
to
he's
think
gonna
through
say,
if
let's,
it's gotta
let's,
be
he's gonna say, let's put in here, right? What the DLS said, it can be the board or a thing, and then we decide which one we wanna have.
I had framed it the way I did based on conversation with Joe, where he'd said that there was reticence.
I remember
to-
Joe
to
saying
do
that,
that,
yeah.
so.
Okay, number 12? You wanna speak to that?
Oh, that's the tailings policy.
I get that,
It's-
I get that,
It's
yeah.
The what?
kind of a solution without a problem, frankly, but there's no harm in doing it.
Say that again, number 12?
It's kind of a solution without a problem. We don't, it's not
It's
a
like, it's
big
like.
issue
it's-
of having
Glenn,
uncashed
instead
checks
of the-
out there for a long
Instead of
time.
this, the Pentucket putting the money, we're gonna have the money there, and then the Pentucket will be reimbursing us.
Which I've already seen that too, right? I saw a letter in here, backup.
Oh, 12. Oh,
12.
I'm sorry,
You thought it was the tailings?
I thought it was the 10.
Oh,
Yeah,
10, yeah.
Yep. 12, okay, that's a simple one. So right now, we got 26,000. What has been done in prior year's budget, including the current year budget, is instead of budgeting the full expense of the SRO, the expense minus 26,000 was budgeted. The correct way to do it, the auditor has advised us, and I've seen this in other towns as well. You budget the full expense and then budget the 26,000 in revenue. So it's a neutral impact on the bottom line. It's just putting it on both sides of the
Okay,
ledger.
having said that, there's only one problem, is that when it comes to town meeting, people are gonna say, what the heck happened here? It just went up 17.5% versus the previous year, and that's gonna be
Actually, it
A
won't
red
because
flag.
but,
just saying.
yeah, and another reason why people put that forward was because if we didn't get the funding from the school, then that position wasn't going to be allowed.
Right.
So if we start funding that position, then the money's
Then
there.
It's all on us.
Yeah. So let's think of
This
this.
made it like a hard cutoff.
Well, I'll tell you, if this is left out, the only thing that's gonna happen is the auditor will ding us on it, and it's not a big ding, it's a little advice that you ought to do it this way. I dealt with the exact same thing in the town. They used to do this all the time. They wouldn't budget the expense, they would count on the revenue.
Mhm.
And every year, we would have to do these audit adjustments after the fact to put it back how it was, and, I
But
had
you
to
understand
fight
our
with my
dilemma?
council, But it was a
We're
seven-member
just telling you
council.
why we did it.
No, I
that way.
totally get it, I get it.
I'd rather keep it the way we're doing it.
Okay.
What about you?
Yeah, keep it.
You?
Fine.
Okay, so we're taking that one off.
All right.
13, I would take that off. What do you want to do? You were on that committee. And you guys, and Angus, they put
I
some,
was on the committee.
and put
but-
some serious work
but-
into it.
But I
You heard the.
heard everyone like, okay, let's put it,
It doesn't make sense.
to put it
It
all
does,
in the
it
big,
does, it
in the
does.
big picture.
Okay, let's take 13 off. 14, want to talk about that, please?
So this is to support continuing work by DOT to continue to basically put the older files in the office into better order. And I can say that it's clear to me which cabinet she's got to and which she hasn't, in terms of just things being well organized and accessible.
That's
But-
fine. I'd
but-
like to get it done.
Yeah, the other piece that I added to this is temporary office coverage in the event of overlapping staff absences, which is my way of saying, when Annie's out on Friday and Mary's on vacation or sick on Friday, it's great that I can call Dot and get some coverage at that desk, so that's another reason I would.
What's happening to money, what's happening to money from the, note taker, the minutes taker? How much money is left from there? Yes. Didn't we budget money into that?
Andy did the salaries, I don't know what the budget ended up being.
I'm sure it had to be.
Yeah, so it was budgeted in there, why can't we use that money for that?
Or did we budget that?
Yeah, I'm almost positive we did, because she was gonna be working this year, correct? So,
That's a good point.
unless it was earmarked for. Okay, you wanna just look into that for me? I
Yeah,
mean, just,
why don't we-
because I think it's around that amount of money, so,
Yeah,
and it was already
So
budgeted.
If we can cover it within the current budget, we can pull that one off, I'll research that.
So the concept of doing what you wanna do, I think we're all in agreement with. It's just where the money's gonna come from. If we're already budgeted, that's great, and if we're not, if we need a little bit more, we can do it, right?
Yeah.
15, proposed increase up to $35,000 on expense budget to fund consulting support, necessary preparation. I'm totally against this, and I'll give you a reason why.
Okay.
You're asking for $35,000 for a DPW expense budget to fund consulting support as necessary to prepare a stormwater management plan and related FY19 tasks. Let's wait until we get a DPW director budgeted, in here, a new one, and then we maybe, or
we
is
have-
this something that's,
Do we have compliance deadlines?
yeah, that's what my next question was gonna be.
We do, and I'll just say a few words on this. Stormwater management is one of the biggest unfunded mandates I've come across in my 20 years of doing this. It is a huge impact. We have bad timing right now because we're at the beginning of a new 5-year permit from EPA. So we've got to come up with a new stormwater management plan, update a number of policies. That's all going to happen by June 30th. And then each of the subsequent 5 years of the permit, there will be additional requirements that we're subject to. Some of those fall within normal operations and maintenance. It may affect the timing of things. But the real burden at that point is the paperwork and the reporting to DEP. At this point, where we're at the beginning, we're in the first year of the permit, we've got to come up with a stormwater management plan, this illicit discharge detection and elimination program. We've got to update various policies on management of construction sites and so forth. With all that said, we do have a stormwater working group that I've put together at the staff level. We have, it is not an issue of competence or skill set, it's an issue of bandwidth. And I had not intended to propose outside funding, although in my old town, where we were also heavily regulated, we did have a dedicated consultant who helped us stay in compliance, even though we had even more personnel resources than we have here.
Okay.
But just to finish the point, so I was contacted last week by the planner and had a meeting with her and the chair of the planning board. They're very concerned that that office has very little time to give toward this effort based on their staffing and overall other priorities. I'm not certain that we don't have the manpower in-house to do this. The turnover at the DPW director is a big X factor, and as you know, we put more on stormwater into the job description, and that's going to be part of what I'm going to look for, is someone who can really run with this. But while that position is vacant, I just don't know what we're going to have. With all that said, I did meet with Gary this afternoon, and he said that he has enough latitude in that budget that if there is the need for outside funding, he feels the money is there. That falls into the category of me needing to better understand kind of, because there's no line item for that, but he said there's flexibility. So it would not break my heart if this fell off.
So you have funding within the current
I'm taking it.
DPW.
That was my next.
That is what I'm told.
That was
Okay.
my next question.
Yeah.
Take it off.
You know what, Dick, to a point about the budgeting, maybe we can start having our budget seem a little bit more transparent in the
I've had
future.
a couple of meetings with the FinCom chair and with members of this board, and I think everyone's in agreement that that's the
It
direction.
seemed like they've gone in the, since I've been a selectman, they've seemed like they've gone in the opposite direction of less transparency than more. It used to be.
Well, this new budgeting forecasting tool that we got from DLS, I mean, that's very comprehensive.
Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, in front of us, we had
We took off
15, we took off 12, 13, 14, and, the 14, we did not take off. That's still a question mark.
Right.
Sorry. 12, 13, and 15, and you're going to come back on 9 on us with that, and everything else is there. Is that okay?
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
You have to use
Yes, sir?
I was out of the room when one of interest to me was passed. May I comment on it?
Sure. Could you, John, could you sit up here, because that, we turned that one off, please? Mm-hmm.
They're dialing.
It's number 3. Request for $4,000 for architectural services.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to be comfortable from back in my days in the Finance Committee that the $6,000 article by that committee from 3 years back was exhausted before you added money. The subsequent 2 years have been line item of 6,000 and 6,000. So you might look at this year's line item. I don't know what other expenses that committee has. And the other comment, this is not a numbered one, it's the last paragraph. And at the risk of alienating my new acquaintance, Mr. Jennings, there's a suggestion that perhaps to consider rental money for a vehicle for the new DPW director. I was, and it's been known perhaps by the selectmen, that I felt that that was a unwise choice to do the rental matter for that particular position. At the rate of $6,000 a year, it's pretty easy to get a pretty good lease on a vehicle and then have your own free home vehicle. Further though, aside from the money, you have a town position in authority that has contacts with all sorts of people that is traveling unidentified. And I think it's important that a municipal vehicle with the appropriate color of that department and a door decal, so that when that position of authority shows up on a work site or to enforce something or to cause something to happen, and or when they're on public activity, they have flashing lights in the roof and all. I don't think that that was, in deference to you gentlemen, was a good choice at the time, and I think that I personally, as a citizen, would like to see it reversed and brought back to a municipal vehicle for that position.
That's a good point.
And I think that position absolutely has a vehicle that they take home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
I feel I'm not totally clear that what you're saying is responding to what I wrote.
Well, let's say my little blurb there stands on its own.
Yep.
But we understand your premise of saying that we were given
An official vehicle.
Yeah, you want an official vehicle and not in a car allowance any longer.
Okay, which is not, yeah, and basically what I'm doing is just bringing to everyone's attention, there is no director vehicle. Gary's been fine with the stipend.
Mm-hmm.
a new person may be fine with that, but just to make everyone aware, if we hire someone who doesn't have a vehicle that's suitable for the purpose, that may be a capital need.
There is $6,000 in the fiscal 19 budget
Yes.
currently, line item for that.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Thank you. Yep, so we're all on the same page. I didn't.
So that would, so the premise of wanting a town vehicle, we might need to get a line item, we might want an article for that.
Well, that's why I brought it forward. I personally think it would be a little bit premature since we don't know who the person will be, and they may very well have a vehicle.
Could be handled in the spring.
Right, and they may be fine to take the
And then
car
like
allowance.
have them, give them the stipend, but with the caveat that, hey, in the spring, we're gonna put a real town vehicle in for you.
I think if we get to that stage of negotiation with a preferred candidate where they say this is a major factor in terms of whether they want to be here or not, at that point, the board could make that commitment. to
Okay.
bring that forward.
Okay.
That's fine. So, Mr. Chairman, are we done with
Yes.
the article? So I move to close the fall town meeting warrant with the 11 or 12, depending on how it falls out, articles we've discussed tonight.
Second.
Discussion. An affirmative vote on that motion would mean that they're closed and we will not accept any others.
Correct. You okay with that?
Yes, I mean, I'm totally defer to the board based on.
No, this is the first time we probably have done it.
Right.
So it's probably a good thing to
Well,
do.
yeah, I think the,
We always say we're gonna do it,
Right.
and then somebody, oh, no, so it's,
no,
yeah,
I'm
knocks
not
on the
aware
head.
of anything else that's hanging out there.
Good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, let me get back to my agenda. You got your agenda in front of you? What do you got there?
Salary range, well, actually, if you go back up to I, Selectmen minutes dated August 20th. I move to approve the Selectmen's minutes of August 20th, 2018.
Second. It's been moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Okay, so now we have the process for the DPW was done, we've done the regular business, now the town manager updates. So we have K, we have L, M, and N. Angus?
All right, so salary range schedule. This is something that really ought to happen annually and did happen annually up until a couple of years ago. So what you have in front of you, I'm looking for the board's endorsement of the FY19 employee compensation policies, salary ranges, and what this did was simply apply the 2% COLA that had been part of the FY17, 18, and 19 budgets, compounded, so the FY19 numbers.
Yep.
Does this create issues?
There are a couple of outliers, and those are something we could take up at one thing I note in my memo is you have language in there that provides this board the ability to
Do whatever
move people.
yes.
So I just need to look for those couple of instances.
And then give us recommendations.
Right.
Okay.
So, Angus and I talked about this one-on-one, but, okay, so we have adjusted people already, so now are we gonna really, in other words, a department head said, this person needs X, Y, Z, they've been doing this, or whatever. So are we gonna follow this, or is this just an academic exercise that, in other words, we've changed people's salaries without it necessarily corresponding to what their level is? Are we gonna stick to these levels?
Are
I would hope.
any of the recent salary changes that we've made in the last year, any of those people outside of those ranges? In other words, are they higher than those ranges? I haven't looked.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I think you'd have to,
Well, if we're gonna have a policy, I guess we have to stick with it, and something, I think that we just have been, not doing it and reviewing it, and we would have all known, so just have, yes, we should stick with it, and Angus should take care of it, and it is what it is.
My advice would be to vote it, and then if we find that somebody is out of range with what the stated level of their position is, then you look at the situation and you either find that that's you know, this kind of exception that you put into the policy, or maybe that means that position ought to be a different level than what it says.
But not any money change.
Correct.
You know, we just put them in a different position, but the money
But
stays
if
the
someone's
same.
actual pay is in the 7 band, but their position says they're a 6, then maybe you change that job description to say that position is a 7. Because
But that changes it for when that person leaves, and now it's just
No, then we
well,
should.
but if you think about the DPW director
Now it's a
position,
7.
the advertised.
forever.
No, not
No.
forever. The DPW director was an 11. We changed it to a 10 because once I updated this and we saw what the 10 range was, it was a very healthy range.
So I think we should, when somebody leaves, that's something we never always do, and that's something that
And
we
that's
always.
something I've always done.
We should
in
have,
my job.
is because that's why we got so high, like with the different chiefs, is because we always just started them off at that same level, and we've started to do it. We should bring it back down, because they're here because of their, whatever.
Okay, but you bring their wages down, or do you bring their level down?
Angus gave you the example that we did both
You
with
can
the.
bring someone's level down.
No. When you're hiring somebody new, when you're hiring somebody new.
Not an existing person.
Not an existing person, but when you're hiring somebody new, the job description changes. Like we did with the DPW director. He was at an 11, then we changed it to a 10 in that frame, and we advertised it. So we don't have to stick to it.
We've done that.
You don't, okay.
You don't have to stick with it.
Well, and you've written a policy that provides for an
Flexibility.
ability, provides
change it around.
flexibility on a case-by-case basis.
Joe, you want to do?
So what is the point of them then? That's my question.
Well, the point is exactly what's
With
set out
existing
in section
employees.
4.2 of the personnel policy, this classification and compensation plan. It's your own
If
policy.
it's that flexible, then it's not really a policy.
Well, that's a separate question. I
You see
don't,
what
I
mean?
think,
If
of
we-
course,
if we can-
I totally
we can-
agree with that
okay,
point,
you're a
but that's
4
not.
You're a 4 now,
Yeah.
but you used to be a 3, and the next person you hire, I'm gonna make you a 2, but it's the same job. It's so flexible, it doesn't, I don't see what they do.
I agree
what
with
good
that
it does.
critique, but that is a different
Different
conversation.
story.
All I'm looking to do is just, I found this from FY16, and in that Excel workbook, it had 16, 15, 14.
So why don't we
back
do this,
7 years,
and then
no one had
Angus-
done it for 3 years, so I said.
So
I'm
Angus
just
can
trying
work
to
on your other
bring this into
question,
the
and we can
present.
put it together.
See, I'm thinking of like a military rank, and this is what, or a GS-16, and this is what a GS-16 is.
Yep.
Well, they're not very flexible.
We have a smaller
Okay.
Yeah,
organization.
I like to think I'm flexible.
Okay.
I can do a really good back bend. I'm very
But the
flexible.
value of the
Joe, you wanna give me
consistency is exactly what's
motion
set
on
out
this?
in this policy, which is that there is a, kind of across the organization look, trying to get compensation to match, the value of the position and skill set, so.
Okay, Joe,
So-
make a motion.
I move to approve the FY19 salary range schedule as recommended by the town manager.
And seconded. Discussion?
Aye.
Aye.
I agree with what you said.
Archie
I'll just
abstains.
abstain, yeah.
He can't understand it. I don't blame him, but you just gotta get it
I
done.
understand it.
No, I didn't mean understand it, but it doesn't make any sense, I
It's
guess.
kind of
Okay, next.
not useful.
Next is another,
Not useful.
really arcane issue, but very important, which is
How you
simply
calculate.
the method for tracking accrual of vacation time for qualified part-time employees. So what I've done is translated the language of the written policy at section 512 into numbers. And so basically the table on the right would mean, so let's take employee G is working 70% of a full-time schedule. So if employee G had been here less than 5 years, they would get 4.6648 hours of vacation added per month. And the reason this is so important to get these numbers right is we're trying to centralize the accrual so that the finance office would simply add this to that employee's payroll records every month. And so before standardizing how we do this, I just want to make
Makes
sure
sense.
everyone's clear on the
Makes sense. Make sense to you, Archie? Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And in fact, I think this is, I'm told this might be part of why things hadn't been centralized, because no one had figured out the math of exactly what the multiplier was.
Okay. Okay.
There's been a lot of turnover in that office.
Sick time?
Sick time is a little.
You know what, though, we had a number of very qualified finance directors, so.
Wasn't on their list. This one does call for a little more subjective guidance from the board, which basically in a nutshell is whether a qualified part-time person receives the same .833 days, or whether that sick time accrual should also be prorated. That's basically the question before you.
So this is the same question, as I see it, that we wrestled with holiday pay a few years ago. And
So what do you want to do?
well, I thought, and I still do think, at the time, not prorating it is unfair to the full-time employees, because you're giving the part-time employees more benefit than the full-time people. It might be a kind of a backwards way of looking at it, but.
I do not see them as the same issue initially, but but as far as sick time, I agree with that as relates to sick time.
Okay.
Holiday, I do think, is a separate discussion.
Yeah, yep.
How are those heat cups working out for you, Angus? Okay, Joe? Anything else, Angus?
Just a sense of the board in terms of, so what I'm hearing is prorating sick time.
I move to approve the method for tracking the accrual of vacation time for qualified part-time employees and for tracking accrual of sick time for qualified part-time employees as recommended by the town manager.
Second.
Quite the motion. I didn't get any of it, but I can watch the video.
I just read the titles.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is that it, Angus?
That's it.
Joe?
I've
Placing items on future agenda?
Yeah, I've kind of gone full circle on this, so I'm actually okay either way, whatever you guys decide. But are we going to talk about selectmen's objectives at some point? They seem to have been deprioritized, and it's September already. So, I mean, we can not do them if we don't want to do them.
I thought we were going to do them, and I thought we were going to do them in the beginning of October. Beginning of October, we're going to give Angus a little bit of time, and then we're going to discuss them, and then make sure that they're. No? If
Yeah,
not,
no, that matches my memory, because that's basically my 90-day period.
Yeah.
So that was the time that I was gonna come back to you and say, based on
Okay,
what
I
you all
forgot.
have set out.
Then I forgot, that's
What
fine.
I've heard from all the departments, this is
That's fine, I
a
forgot.
slate of priorities. So yeah, I've got that on my list for the October 1st
Okay, good.
meeting.
Thank you. That's it.
anything else?
No.
Okay, it's been brought to my attention. That we don't have the Finance Advisory Committee anymore that we used to have.
Right.
And in our regional agreement, it says that they look at our regional agreement and they make recommendations.
Mhm.
And we're supposed to do that on an annual basis.
Mhm.
And we haven't met in a long time.
Correct.
So I would ask that Angus would send a letter to the other two towns saying that, hey, this is in our regional agreement, and we'd like to get this started again.
Why don't we just ask, the superintendent is new, why don't we just say that to him?
Because it's not his responsibility to get it rolling. I got a phone call from the superintendent's office to ask us that we get it going again.
Oh, that's fine.
Really?
Yeah, so the new superintendent noticed that we haven't reviewed, like we're supposed to, the regional agreement annually. And I said, what can I do? They said, well, could you send a letter to the other towns? And then I kind of said the same thing you did, and they says, well, we don't want to do something that we're not responsible for. So you want to get up to speed? You and I can talk about that, Angus?
Yeah.
And we can get up to speed exactly what it is. You can call, why don't you call the superintendent and Marion and after and ask them and say, hey, we talked at our meeting, we'd like to do this, is that okay?
Yeah.
And they can even kind of, because it was always, what Joe is right, it was always seemed to have been generated from the district. But I think just because, I don't think it was because, but it says the regional agreement that we're supposed to do it. You have anything for future agenda?
I just wondered where do we stand on having the TLS person coming back? When are we gonna do that?
I don't know.
Well, she was on vacation, she went on vacation. I think she's on vacation now.
She is.
So I guess the next step is, there's two parts. There's the policies, okay, and then there's the forecasting tool. After having gone through that 2.5-hour meeting, I felt pretty comfortable in should we kind of flush out, because that created a big list. And she updated the policy based on
Our comments.
yeah. So is it now kind of on us with the Finance Committee and Angus to go and sift through that? I mean, whether that's with her or not with her, I don't really, either way is fine with me. I don't know if you have an opinion about that.
I personally would love to really dig into it myself, as I think other, members of the Finance Committee would, and members of this board. So I think we ought to set a time that's far enough out that everybody can come in prepared to have a meeting maybe between selectmen and finance
Well, we said we were going to do that.
on that forecasting tool, but without Marcia, and then maybe invite her back if there's questions.
Depending, that's a good idea. So without her, depending on how it goes.
We might not even want her back.
Right, we may find that we've got the full
Not for that,
functionality.
but for the forecast tool, we probably, we haven't.
You never know.
looked
We
at
might
it.
have it all worked out, or we might want to. Just keep it open. So
Well, that's.
why don't you set that date to have the FinCom and us have a meeting? Block off a good hour. We could even have it an off night
I've
if
got
you
to
want.
go back over some of the data in the forecasting was,
That's gonna be,
it's got some,
that's a separate.
I know, that has some errors, but if it's garbage in, garbage out, you have to have it has to
Not going to be
have
useful at all.
it has to have the numbers correct, or we're forecasting completely wrongly.
Yep.
Is that all right now?
Yeah.
Okay, and you'll plan that, Angus?
I will.
So after town meeting, or?
Yeah.
Or
That would
after,
be my
Yeah.
reference. yeah.
or after we have town meeting put to bed, which is maybe right before, could be late October.
Late October or the first meeting in November.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'd like to have, I'm sorry, Archie, is that it?
no, that's it, okay.
I'd like to have the Mill Pond and all related
Oh, the
people in,
management agreement.
and discuss the management agreement.
When?
Next meeting or the one after. And if you could provide,
What kind of weapons are we gonna have, each one?
and if you could provide us with that management agreement, forward it to us, that would be great. That's all I have. Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
I have one thing.
Need to use the microphone, please.
Did you want to talk about that?
Sure, yeah, so Mary brought to my attention earlier today that in reviewing the minutes when the selectmen had voted this past May to update the personnel policy, there was no motion. There were motions on different sections of the policy, but no motion to amend the overall policy. And
So moved.
You made motions for individual policies.
Yep, so let's
Then you didn't motion at the public hearing. I listened to the video, I went back and checked.
Okay, so how do we fix it?
So we were gonna bring this back at a future meeting.
We can't just do it now?
It's not on the agenda.
It's not on the
Okay, so
agenda.
put it on the next agenda.
So I
please.
think that, and then the question that we had is, do we just bring it forward in exactly the format that you voted it?
Yes.
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Is it- Yeah, I'd rather not
Yep.
re-debate it,
Yep.
and whatever our
I agree.
mindset then was, that's what we're voting on.
agreed.
So we,
Yeah.
so in that case, we'll go ahead and do the notice and.
Hey,
put that-
Personnel.
You see the numbers?
No. I gotta post that online, Mike wants me to. Put that online.
Yeah.
Lenny lost huge in this town, 400 to 39 to 283. Lenny's mother was accosted in Groveland by 3 of her, said, "We don't like your kind."
Can we adjourn the meeting?
Yes.
I just want to grab her before she left. Okay, make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.